Hello, good evening. My name is Councillor Amrit Mann, and I'm the chair of the Planning Committee. As you would have guessed by now, we're about a quarter of an hour late because we have some IT issues. Hopefully these have been rectified and we won't see them anymore. But I'd like to welcome you to this virtual meeting of Hounslow's Planning Committee, albeit a bit late. I would like to welcome the members of the committee who are sitting this evening, as well as council officers who will be assisting members throughout the meeting. In addition, I would like to welcome members of the public who are watching this meeting at home. As you all may know, until recently, virtual meetings for council business were not legal, but as a result of the coronavirus pandemic and the quarantine arrangements required by government, the law has recently been changed to let local authorities meet in a virtual way to make decisions. Therefore, this meeting is taking place using the recently introduced government regulations. The way this meeting will work will be that as chair, I will be running the meeting and inviting people to speak. As it is very easy for people to speak over each other, in meetings like this, I will ask each member or officer to speak in turn at the appropriate stage. This will mean that there should normally be no more need for people to interrupt or to ask to speak. However, I shall make sure that members have ample opportunity to ask questions and make comments on the report and applications before them. The exceptions to this arrangement will be the legal, committee, or planning officers who may turn on their microphone to alert me to any legal, governance, or planning issue that needs addressing, although I would expect this to be a rare occurrence. In addition, we have a producer of the meeting from our ICT department who may also contact me if necessary, but I think it's unlikely if all goes well, as we're all hoping that it will. The etiquette for members of this committee and for officers who are expecting to speak will be to mute your microphone until you're asked to speak. This means that only one person will be speaking at any one time and there will be no background noise, making it easier for all of us to follow the meeting and also for those watching at home. I will also ask members always to say who they are when they're making a contribution and to speak slowly and clearly for the same reason. We have 6 members of the planning committee with us here this evening, and it is we who will be making the decisions. Officers of the council will provide assistance and advice as required, but the final decision will be made by the members. So, I would now like to introduce each of the members of the committee here tonight one by one. I will start with myself. My name is Councillor Amrit Mann and I'm the chair of this committee. I'm also the ward councillor for Heston East Ward. So can I now invite Councillor Richard Foote, who is my vice chair, to make the introduction.
Right, I'm Councillor Richard Foote, member for Hamworth and vice chairman of the planning committee.
Thank you, Richard. Can I now invite Councillor Shivraj Garawal to introduce himself?
Hi, good evening. My name is Councillor Shivraj Garawal and I am a councillor from Heston Central and I'm a member of the planning committee as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Garawal. Can I now invite Councillor Khalik Malik to introduce himself, please?
Thank you, Chair. I am a Councillor Khalik Malik, member of the Cranford Ward, and I am member of this planning committee this evening.
Thank you, Khalik. Can I now invite Councillor Hina Mir to introduce herself?
Hello everyone, I'm Councillor Hinami, elected member for Feltham West and a member for Planning Committee.
Thank you, Hina. Can I now invite Councillor John Todd to introduce himself?
Hi, I'm Councillor John Todd. I'm a ward councillor for Chiswick Homefields and I'm a member of the Planning Committee.
Thank you, Councillor Todd. Can I now invite the officers, starting with Sarah Scannell?
Hello, I'm Sarah Scannell, I'm the Assistant Director for Planning and Development at the London Borough of Hounslow, and I'll be presenting one of the cases today.
Thank you, Sarah. Can I now invite Matthew Reese?
Good afternoon, my name is Matthew Reese. I'm the Head of Development Management and I will be presenting an item tonight.
Thank you, Matthew. Can I now invite Kieran Coughlin, please?
Hello, I'm Kieran Coughlin and I'm a Transport Officer with the Council.
Thank you, Kieran. Can I now invite Sam Smith?
Good evening, thank you, Chair. My name is Sam Smith. I'm a Deputy Area Planning Manager and I will be presenting one of the cases.
Thank you, Sam. Now I'd like to move on to the officers representing legal governance and committee services. So Jessica Farmer, please.
Hello, my name's Jessica Farmer and I'm the legal advisor this evening.
Thank you, Jessica. Can I now invite Patrick Kelly? No? Okay, let's move on. And Wendy Merry.
Good evening, I'm Wendy Merry and I'm from Democratic Services.
Thank you, Wendy. Can I now invite Chaspal Sandhu, please?
Hello, I'm Chaspal Sandhu and I'm here from Democratic Services.
Thank you, Chaspal. We also have officers acting a producing role for the technical side of this meeting, but as they're not expected to be involved in the discussion of the meeting, I will thank them for their help, but not ask them to introduce themselves. Members of the public are reminded that the agenda and all reports being considered by the committee tonight can be found on the council website under the Planning Committee meetings page. So if you want to see them, that is where to look. I also want to make sure that all members have seen the agenda and the reports. So please speak now if you've not had sight of them. Right, okay. I will take it that everybody's seen the agenda reports. Okay, thank you. I would like to remind members of the need to hear all the evidence in each report we are considering tonight. This means that you should listen to the whole debate. Please do not pop out to make a cup of tea or walk the dog. This is a legal requirement, and I will be asking you to confirm that you've heard the whole debate before you vote on any matter this evening. If you find yourself you are having technical problems, as we experienced at the start of this meeting, you need to log out of the meeting and come back in. Please let me know immediately, ideally beforehand, but if not, afterwards by turning on your microphone. This would be a permitted interruption. We can then decide how far we need to recap, if that is necessary, or if the member needs to not vote on that item. Finally, I would say to any member of the public listening or watching, thank you for joining us this evening and for your perseverance. We hope that this meeting will go well, but any virtual meetings may suffer from unexpected technical hitches, so please bear with us. I should also clarify that this meeting is being recorded and it will be made available on the Council's YouTube channel in the next few days. Contributors to the meeting are asked to remember that they will therefore be included in the recording of this public meeting. Thank you. We will now move on to the first item of the agenda. And they are apologies for absence. We would normally have a much larger number of members sitting on this planning committee, but for virtual meetings, we have concluded it is much better to have a smaller number for members. So apart from me and Councillor Foote as my vice chair, other members of the planning committee will be attending virtual meetings on a rota basis in accordance with political proportionality. This does not mean that those members who are not here this evening are absent or need to send apologies, and they will not be marked down on attendance lists that are maintained by the council. So I take it that all the members are here. I've had no apologies and we are quorate, so we can move directly on to item 2. Item 2 is declaration of interest under the Town Planning Code of Guidance or any other communication from members. So let me ask the members first. Shall I run down the little list that I've got? Then that way we don't speak over each other. So Councillor Foote, any declarations of interest? Declaration of interest.
Right.
He's muted.
Right. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Okay. No, I haven't really got any interest other than in the final one. As you may remember, I was very...
Councillor Foote, any declarations of interest?
Sorry, Councillor Foote. Sorry to interrupt you. You're on mute. Sorry, Councillor Foote, you're still on mute. Could you try again, please? Star 6.
Can I come back to Councillor Foote, right? So let me deal with the other people while we sort out the issues with Councillor Foote's microphone. Yeah. Okay. Councillor Shivraj Garawal, any declaration of interest?
Yeah, Chair, I have no personal interest in any of the applications today, but I have been to number 21 Manor Avenue.
Thank you, Councillor Garawal.
Yeah.
Councillor Khalik Malik.
Can you hear me now?
Richard, yes, we can. Let me take Richard just in case. Yeah, Richard.
Yeah, sorry.
Any declaration of interest that you've got?
Only that with the last item of the day, I was very actively involved with C4 HMOs in Hamworth in getting them stopped in Hamworth. So I don't know. I mean, it's not a pecuniary interest, but yeah, I thought that just in case.
No, that's fine.
Chair, could I just ask Councillor Foote a question? So, Councillor Foote, do you feel that you've made your mind up on this issue, or that you're coming to this with an open mind?
No, I feel I'm coming with an open mind, but obviously I probably have a deeper understanding of the situation than perhaps regular councillors have got because of the involvement over many months with myself.
Okay, thank you.
Not on this one. This was in Hamworth alone. Yeah.
Okay. Right. So I'm sure they'll note it in committee services will note it in that it's not to do with the 21 Manor Avenue, but it is to do with the sites in Hamworth, as you say.
Yep.
Okay. Right. Let me go back to Councillor Khalik Malik.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
You're loud and
Yeah.
clear.
I think we have quite a few email and communication from, I can't remember which one, but I've seen some emails as well as I've visited the 21 Manor with the open mind to see the site.
Thank you, Councillor Khalik Malik. Councillor Hina Mir, any declaration of interest?
None from my end, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor John Todd.
Yeah, I've no interest. I've had communication from L&Q regarding the Morrison's application.
It's fine. Okay. Thank you, John. And for myself, I've had communication from almost all the applicants there. I visited 21 Manor Avenue, that site, and really that's it. Okay, so we now come to the minutes, which is item 3. And this is the minutes of the last meeting of the committee held on the 4th of June 2020. I intend to take both corrections for accuracy and any matters arising together. May I ask members if they have any corrections that they wish to propose? Please speak now if you wish to do so. If there is more than one person, I will give the order in which you can speak. So, the minutes. If I go through for accuracy and matters arising, so page 1, page 2, pages 3, and pages 4. May I ask members to agree the minutes if they have no corrections to apply?
Shall I move them as a correct record, Chair, as being the member that was present?
Okay, that's fine. And a seconder, anybody seconds it?
No, I second it.
Gary Garwell seconded, right? Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. I would usually now sign a physical copy of the minutes, but as this is currently impractical, I shall ask the committee officer to ensure that I am provided with a paper copy to sign or by post when it's possible to attend Hounslow House. In the meantime, the minutes will formally record that we have agreed the minutes as a correct record of the last meeting. Colleagues, thank you very much. Now, we're going to move on to the substantive agenda, which is we now move to the planning applications for decisions this evening that are in front of us. Where we need to have time contributions, I will ask Jessica as the legal officer to alert me to when allocated timings have been reached. I will ask her to alert me prior to the guillotine as well, before being reached and before we conclude the meeting tonight. May I remind all members, officers and public speakers at this meeting to introduce themselves each time they speak and also to turn off their microphones when they have finished speaking. It is also important to speak slowly and clearly so that everyone can understand what you're saying. Finally, if you are making reference to any agenda documentation, please give the page and paragraph details. Okay, as to how the procedures for tonight's meeting with the speakers. So basically the process for an application with the speakers is as follows. I will invite the applicants, if they are present, also to speak for 5 minutes. Members will then have a chance to ask questions of the applicants. We're gonna actually do this the other way around for this meeting only, which is that I'm going to ask the objector to speak first, and then I will ask the applicant to speak afterwards. So, but the process is exactly the same. I will then next allow the applicant collective to make their presentation up to 5 minutes in total. Members then similarly will have a chance to ask questions of the applicant. Officers will then give their presentation on the application, and members will be able to speak and ask questions as well. So members will then be able to make comments and debate the application, and then we will go to a vote. This process means that the committee will have been able to get all the information it needs to make a decision in a way which is fair to all parties. We will therefore start the process for this application. May I remind all the applicants and objectors that they have only 5 minutes. I will ask the legal officer each time to time the contributions, and given 30 seconds before the end of their 5 minutes, she will intervene to tell you, and I will tell you that you have 30 seconds left. We will start with the objector in this case. May I ask you to give your name and speak for 5 minutes? Just before you do that, just before the objector does that, can I ask Matthew Reese, the officer who will be presenting, to give a quick summary of the report and the item? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So this is the Morrisons on Brentford High Street. It's an application for 215 new homes, a large A-run retail unit, and then 2 smaller retail units on the site. I'll just take this opportunity, if that's okay, to frame what application is in front of us. This is a Section 73 application, something that we call a minor material amendment. So as much as the benefit is public as for members, just to be clear, as part of these types of applications, all we can do is consider the alterations to an approved scheme. So in this case, I think it was in April 2017, members approved an application on the site for 221 new homes and a similar retail floor space, which was approved in May 2018. So what this application is it's proposing amendments to that scheme, and what we're required to do as a local planning authority is only to make a decision on what has been amended in accordance with the adopted local plan. So I hope that's okay, just to frame what we're talking about here.
Okay, that's good. Matthew, thank you for that. Now, have we got the objector Tony Firkins on the line?
I'm Tony Firkins. Can you hear me?
Yes, Tony, in your own time, when you're ready, you've got 5 minutes, and I will intervene, or Jessica will intervene 30 seconds to let you know you need to sum up at that point. Yeah. Okay, so off you go, Tony. You've got 5 minutes starting from now.
Thank you. I must stress there is a climate emergency. Evidence of this continues to mount, and we have less and less time to address it. Hounslow Council declared a climate emergency a year ago, and this needs to be taken very seriously in planning right now. So it is shocking that the proposed Morrison's development includes the use of gas-fired boilers, emitting nearly 100 tonnes of CO2 every year, according to Section 7.5 of the Energy Statement. Developments in Hounslow need to follow the Hounslow Carbon Offset Fund document, signed off by Amrit Mann and Steve Curran. This document is aligned with the intend to publish London Plan Clause SI2, and I ask you to focus on the intent of the Hounslow document. On page 2 of the Hounslow document, it says Hounslow Council is committed to reducing carbon emissions wherever possible. However, the proposed development includes gas boilers, which are modelled to emit about 90 tonnes of CO2 a year, which is in Section 7.5 of the Energy Statement. It is possible to reduce carbon emissions in this development by removing the gas boilers and having more use of renewables. This should be done to meet the spirit of this statement. On page 4 of the Hounslow document, it says, in Hounslow, achieving the required reductions in carbon dioxide emissions on site is not always technically feasible or financially viable. Where this is proven to be the case, developers may seek to achieve carbon compliance with the available carbon offset fund mechanism. For this development, it has not been proven to be the case that the developer could not reduce the carbon emissions more than they have done. Indeed, many developments are now coming through to Hounslow planning with much lower carbon emissions, such as the council's own developments, 50 London Road and 250 Gunnersbury Avenue. None of these developments are proposed to have gas boilers. The proposed development's design is not following the principle that carbon savings should be built into the design first, and only when this has been exhausted can the developer propose to use a carbon offset fund mechanism. On page 4 of the Hounslow carbon document, it says the shortfall in CO2 reduction will be charged at £1,800 per tonne of carbon dioxide. £1,800 represents £60 per tonne calculated over 30 years. But the £60 has now been increased to £95. This is in line with the intent to publish London plan. So instead of £1,800 per tonne, it should now be amended to read £2,850 per tonne. In the Planning Committee report, section 9.6, the offset payment has been amended to £248,640. But given the proposed total regulated yearly emissions for the development of 184 tonnes of CO2 a year, that's on page 34 of the energy statement, the carbon offset payment should be 524,400, almost double. Please explain why the developer is not having to pay this. The Hounslow Carbon Offset Fund document has numerous mentions of achieving zero carbon homes. However you interpret this, it's very odd interpretation to say this actually allows a development which is modelled to emit over 400 tonnes of CO2 a year, according to the energy statement for regulated and non-regulated emissions. The interpretation of this document should be done in the light of the climate emergency. There is a climate emergency, and we should only be permitting truly zero carbon developments to pass planning. This is the intention of the planning rules. It's probably going to be quite expensive to retrofit this development to be truly zero carbon once it has been built with the current energy design. With the UK's desire to be zero carbon by 2050, this will all have to happen before 2050. And with Hounslow Council would like this to be much, much sooner and be by 2030. This development may not even be in use by 2025 and will still be starting its use with high carbon emissions in the design due to the use of the gas boilers. I urge the Planning Committee and the developer to rethink the use of gas boilers in this development and deliver a design for a zero carbon development. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Tony. Stay on the line.
Okay.
Because committee members may have questions for you. Now, let me ask any of the members, and I will do this by going down the line of members alphabetically, one by one, starting with Councillor Richard Foote. Richard, have you a question or any comment to Tony Firkins, the objector? Richard?
It appears that his microphone's on mute again, Chair.
Okay, let me come back to Richard then, if that's the case, while somebody contacts him and unmute his mic. Councillor Shiv Garawal.
Yeah, I'm Councillor Shivraj Grewal from Heston Central. And Chair, I have no comments to make and no questions to ask.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Garawal. Can I now move on to Councillor Cleek Malik, if he's got a question or a comment to the objector?
Chair, thank you. I have no question at this stage to the objector.
Okay, thank you, Cleek. Just so that all members know, don't turn off your video, but do mute your microphones. Yeah? Okay, so Councillor Hina Mir, any questions to the objector or comment?
Thank you, Chair. No questions from my end.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
Can you hear me now? This is Councillor Foot.
Yes, Richard, you're on. Do you have a question or a comment to Tony, the objector, on item 1?
I've worn out my finger to come to the point where I say, no, I don't have any questions.
Okay, I'm sorry that we've disturbed you then, and then also your finger may take another rest. Okay.
Yep.
Let me move on to Councillor John Todd. John, any questions to Tony?
Yeah, Councillor John Todd. Yes, I have. Mr. Firkin, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Would you kindly look at page 10 of the report? The planning report.
The planning report.
Yes.
Okay. See if I can find that.
Well, can I lead you? It's a list of people's concerns about this and answers from officers. And
yes.
And I'm looking at the use of natural gas is unacceptable. I'm not quite sure that's from you, but it keys in with what you're saying.
Yes, it was from me. It was from me.
Well done. We both speak from the same sheet, actually. Yeah, and the answer is the scheme proposes air source heat pumps and photovoltaic panels, and they go on to say, I'm summarising now, the proposal accords with the London Plan energy hierarchy. What do you say to that?
I say that there's different interpretations, but if you look at the hierarchy, you should only be using the offset fund if you could not build the building to a better standard. And in this case, you could build this building without the use of gas-fired boilers. And therefore, the offset fund doesn't come in to operation.
Okay, well, that's pretty clear. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Todd, thank you very much. Okay, and lastly, myself, I have no questions for you, Tony, so you can have an early night. Can I ask you to now get off from the telephone line, and we move on to the applicant and being represented by Annabelle McGregor. So, Annabelle, are you online?
Yes, I am.
Okay, tell me when you're ready, then you'll have 5 minutes to make your presentation, after which you'll suffer to the same thing where members will ask questions of you, right? Okay, so in your own time.
Good evening, Chair. Good evening, speakers. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Annabelle McGregor, and I'm a Design and Planning Project Manager working for London and Quadrant Housing Trust. London and Quadrant, or L&Q, is one of London's largest regulated charitable housing associations and is a member of the G15. We currently house around 250,000 people in more than 92,000 homes, which are primarily located across London and the South East. In the London Borough of Hounslow alone, we currently have around 500 homes in our development pipeline. This site benefits from an existing planning permission for 221 build-to-rent homes, of which only 25% are secured as discount market rent. This permission also includes a replacement supermarket and 3 flexible retail units. L&Q acquired this site in 2019 with the intention of improving the existing planning permission by way of a Section 73 application to facilitate a significant increase in the number of affordable homes delivered on site. As part of this exercise, we have amended the unit mix to include more 2- and 3-bed homes and have ensured that each home has access to its own private balcony or terrace. We have also sought to develop the design to meet current technical and policy standards. Our proposals will continue to re-provide a replacement supermarket, and we have consolidated the 3 smaller flexible retail units into 2 in order to help reinvigorate Brentford High Street. In short, the Section 73 application before you is a result of over a year of positive collaboration with officers, councillors and the local community, all of whom have provided constructive advice which has helped to shape our proposals. So the primary reason for submitting this Section 73 application is to make best use of the site and enable the delivery of additional affordable housing. Through the application of grant funding, we have been able to commit to delivering 141 units as affordable housing on this scheme, which equates to 66% of units overall. This is a substantial improvement upon both the Mayor's London-wide target of 35% and the Borough's strategic target of 40% across all new developments. We will provide 44 London affordable rent units, which will be offered at rent substantially below the maximum cap set by the GLA at 80% of market rent inclusive of service charges. These low-cost rented homes will help low-income households who otherwise would not be able to secure or sustain housing on the open market. We will also provide 97 shared ownership units, which will help first-time buyers get onto the property ladder through purchasing an initial ownership share of as little as 25%, whilst paying regulated rent on the remaining share. This will substantially reduce the amount needed for a deposit, which is one of the main barriers to home ownership. During these difficult times, the importance of providing adequate private and communal amenity space for residents has never been clearer. Where the existing planning permission only provided private amenity space to around a quarter of homes, our proposals include a private balcony or terrace for every home, in addition to a communal podium garden serving Block A. As with amenity space, the much needed shift towards sustainable travel has never been more important. This shift will reduce the strain on public transport, contribute towards residents' healthy lifestyles, and help maintain social distancing measures into the future as needed. To facilitate this, our proposals include improved cycle storage facilities to accommodate cycle parking in excess of the adopted London Plan standards. We have also improved the overall sustainability of the proposals in line with both local and government guidance at the time of submission. In total, our proposals achieve a 39% reduction in regulated CO2 emissions, up from the 35% achieved by the approved scheme. This has been made possible through the introduction of an air source heat pump system, which absorbs heat from the outside air to heat homes and hot water through electrical means. As air source heat pumps are still a relatively new renewable technology, it has been necessary to retain the use of some gas boilers in order to deliver hot water to homes at safe temperatures. However, the scheme design allows for these boilers to be phased out in the future should the technology improve. L&Q will offset the remaining regulated CO2 emissions up to 100% by way of a financial contribution towards other carbon saving schemes in the borough in accordance with the Mayor's zero carbon policy. In summary, our proposed amendments to the existing permission will deliver 215 new homes, which represents a quarter of Hounslow's adopted yearly delivery target, including 21 wheelchair user dwellings, private amenity space for every home, and an improved unit mix, including more 2- and 3-bed homes. This also includes an improved offer of 66% affordable housing by unit, including 44 London affordable rent homes and 97 shared ownership homes in a range of unit sizes. We will continue to re-provide a replacement large format supermarket on site, as well as 2 smaller flexible retail units and an improved public square, opening up views of St Paul's Church to the north. The proposed amendments do not represent a fundamental alteration to the existing consent.
You have 30 seconds, I think.
And the use of a Section 73 application in this manner is appropriate and in all other respects valid. In light of this and the benefits described, I hope members will agree with their officer's recommendation and resolve to grant planning permission for this Section 73 application. I would be happy to answer any further questions you might have at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Annabelle. Right, okay, members. May I now ask members who may have any questions for the applicant, and I will do this by going down the line alphabetically. So, Councillor Richard Foote, are you with us, Richard?
I'm told I'm no longer muted.
Oh, very good. Welcome back.
Didn't
Okay, so any questions to Annabelle?
No, not. I'm just thinking. There was a reference to a future change that may be able to take place where the gas boilers were removed. So it's really just a question just to confirm that that was what she was saying.
Yes. So air source heat pumps are designed to heat at lower temperatures over longer periods of time. And at the moment, our system has to be supplemented with CHP gas boilers to ensure that this hot water is delivered at safe temperatures to homes. They just don't have the same ability at the moment to heat hot water on demand. But the intention is, along with our in-house energy team, to phase out CHP gas boilers from all of our developments where possible going forward, as soon as the technology allows.
Okay. Richard, any further comments? No?
Come on.
Right. Sorry, this is a bit slow, but the answer's no.
Okay, fine.
I'll
Thank
tell
you,
you what, if it comes up again like that, I'll I'll either stick my thumb up for yes or wave for no.
Well, that's going to be hard because I can't see you
Right.
in terms of your video. So whether your video has been turned down, I don't know.
Okay, it shows me as live on there, but okay. All right, no, okay, I'll stick with it. Yep.
Fine. Let me move on to Councillor Shiv Garawal for any questions that he may have.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I have a question from Annabelle regarding the gas boilers. She just made a statement that you can only have hot water, instant hot water from gas boilers, and that's not true. With the new technology, you can have instant hot water from direct cylinders which are run on electricity, and with heat source pump, they not only produce heating, but they also produce cooling because the weather in this country is changing, and that's the technology, and the technology has advanced a lot. And I think so they should adopt that technology.
Okay, Councillor Garawal. Yeah, no, I'm just saying that. Annabelle, did you catch all of that?
Yes, I did.
Fine, good. Okay, let's respond.
So our energy consultant basically advised us that yes, while the technology is advancing, at the moment that we submitted the application back in August of 2019, the technology wasn't reliable enough to specify and rely upon for the sake of our energy report. If we are able to make savings and reduce the need for gas boilers or even eliminate them completely, we will seek to do so. But our information at the time suggested that we couldn't rely on that new technology consistently for this new development.
I think you should give a second thought on this.
Yes, we'll constantly review the energy strategy. Government guidance is changing all the time, as you know. And if it's possible to improve the energy strategy, we'll seek to do so.
Right.
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay, just so that members are aware, when you get a red border around your video screen, that's when the camera is on you, right? So sometimes if you start early, people watching will miss the front end of what's been said. So wait for the red box to turn up. Yeah. Okay, so let me ask now Councillor Khalik Malik if he's got a question for Annabelle.
Thank you, Chair. I've got two little questions. One is there was a change in communal amenity space from 1254 square meter to 860 square meter. What was the reason for that?
So the extant permission for the site is a build to rent scheme, which is different from, say, a traditional housing scheme in that it tends to be reliant on internal amenity space, things like concierges, gyms, shared residential lounges. So the amenity space figure for that development included all of that internal space. The figure given for our scheme only counts external amenity space because we don't tend to provide that kind of shared internal amenity. We provide balconies, terraces, gardens. We don't tend to provide residence gyms, for example, as a company.
Thank you, Chair. My second question is about the air quality. What you have submitted any plan to protect the future resident from the existing poor quality already exists?
So we had an air quality assessment done for the existing permission, and our consultant advised us that the amendments that we were proposing to the scheme didn't change those impacts. And so in light of that, we proposed to carry over the existing planning condition, which requires us to submit a scheme of mitigation for poor air quality for each residential unit to ensure that they're not in contravention of the air quality standards. So that's how we'll seek to control that impact.
Chair, may I ask another question?
Yes, you're fine, you're on. Go on.
Thank you. What's your plan and how you will ensure to protect the heritage side around there?
So in terms of heritage, there's the locally listed Beehive Pub, which is directly adjacent to our site, which I think is the closest heritage asset. So we've sought to protect that aspect by making the elevation that backs onto that as neutral as possible. We've had to make changes to the elevation from that which was approved to incorporate balconies to our scheme and revise the internal layouts and the windows, and elevations have changed accordingly. But ultimately the massing and the layout hasn't changed from that which was approved. And we think we've in fact improved the situation by specifying a higher quality of material with reference to the materials used in that pub. And so I think we've come up with a scheme that's more sympathetic to that elevation. And in terms of the wider heritage impacts, I'm thinking the Royal Botanic Gardens over the river nearby, things like that. So our layout and massing hasn't changed from that which was approved, and that was considered by Historic England to have less than substantial harm. And so the planning benefits had to be weighed up. And so in this case, the council resolved that the benefits outweighed the harm in that case, and that situation hasn't changed with this permission. We've not sought to go any higher or change the massing in a way that would have a negative impact.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Right. Let me move on then to Councillor Hina Mir, if she's got a question.
Hello, hi Annabelle.
Hi.
Hello there. You mentioned 2 more retail units, right? So
Yeah.
I just want to know what will they be the purpose of use for the retail units, and apart from supermarket, and how will they be useful for the local residents?
So as with the existing permission, we propose to retain the same use classes for those flexible retail units, which is A1, A3 and A4. So it will be retail, cafes, restaurants and pubs potentially. But we've kept it flexible to kind of encourage the widest range of tenants possibly to come in that might benefit the high street. So whoever does go in, it's still flexible, but that's the range of options available.
That's fine, thank you.
Okay, Hina, thank you very much. Let me move on to Councillor John Todd. John, any questions to Annabelle?
Yeah, good evening, Annabelle. I've got a couple of questions. We haven't heard from the officers yet, but just dealing with the pollution, the gas, whatever you call it. What changes have you made since the original planning application to do with that subject?
So previously, the existing permission didn't include any air source heat pump system. It had CHP gas boilers and a photovoltaic array on the roof, which resulted in an overall carbon reduction of 35%. We've increased ours to 39%, kind of mainly through the introduction of an energy strategy that's more reliant on air source heat pumps, although some gas boilers are retained. And then other measures we've taken, we've improved the structure, the material quality, so we target highly efficient U values for windows, air tightness to ensure minimal heat loss. Okay. It's all domestic hot water pipework will be insulated. We'll specify low energy lamps. We've sought wherever we can without altering the layout and the massing really that was approved to reduce our carbon impact as much as feasible.
Okay. Can I ask you a very direct question? You're applying for a Section 73 variation.
Yeah.
Reading the papers, it's nothing to do with gas supply or anything like that, is it?
We've sought a Section 73 application, which is sometimes called a minor material amendment to the existing permission, because ultimately what we're proposing isn't a fundamental alteration of the scheme. We're still seeking to provide a supermarket at ground floor with flexible retail, car park above and then residential above that. And we've kept the same layout and massing. What we have changed is we've provided a balcony to every unit. We've removed all of the studio units which were approved.
Can I interrupt you? I understand that, but I mean, the challenger rightly talks about pollution and gas or whatever. That's not part of a Section 73, I don't think. Would you agree with that or not?
It's an alteration that we've made, an improvement to go from a gas boiler system to this hybrid system that we're proposing. And I think that's a key benefit of the scheme, and it does fall under the provisions of a minor material amendment because it's not fundamentally altering what we're seeking to deliver. It's just improving what's already there.
Okay. I think it's fair to say, as my colleague said, there are schemes I can think of, Enfield Council and people like that. They're way ahead of you in reducing the carbon offset figure. I'm disappointed with this figure. What do you say to that?
Like I've said, we've done what we can within the constraints of what's already been approved. We have had to stick to the existing layout and massing, which isn't ideal in terms of things like kind of passive ventilation, natural sunlight. So kind of we've sought to do as much as we can within the confines physically of what we've been given. If we were to go any further and seek to start kind of designing the building from scratch with this kind of view to designing it from the ground up to be energy efficient, we would have had to submit a full planning application, and then that would take us much longer to deliver when we could be delivering affordable housing much quicker.
Annabelle, I hear what you say. Can I move on to a separate subject, please? The report talks about further discussion on play space requirements and off-site provision is required. Can you clarify that point?
Yep. So again, within the confines of the existing permission, we've provided as much on-site play space as possible, and that's entirely within the podium courtyard, as that's seen as a much safer space for children than the public square. We were advised by officers that it wasn't appropriate to have play space so close to the road. So we've had to then rely on off-site provision, and the nearest place to do that is the St Paul's Recreation Ground. And so in recognition of our impact on that recreation ground, we have offered a £30,000 contribution towards improvement works to that park, which we feel is appropriate for the scale of development that we're proposing. And it's something that has been discussed with the Friends of St Paul's and the Parks team, and they're happy to amend our Section 106 agreement to include that obligation.
Okay, Annabelle, thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, John, thank you very much. Now, I don't have any questions for Annabelle. So, Annabelle, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You can stand down. Now, before we go on to members, I'm going to ask Matthew back again to give us a complete rundown on this application in full. So, Matthew.
Sorry, Matthew, you're on mute.
My apologies. So having established that we are only considering amendments to the approved scheme from 2018, I'll just go through what the actual changes are in front of you today. So it's a reduction in the number of homes from 221 to 215, and as part of that there's a revised mix. So essentially they're getting rid of all of the studio flats that were approved, and then there is an additional 12 one-bedroom flats, 25 two-bedroom flats, and 17 three-bedroom flats. As has been discussed, the affordable offer has been amended as well. So we've gone from the private rental units to the more standardised market housing, and there is now an additional 86 affordable homes, so we're up to 141. There is a reducing the commercial floor space in terms of there was 3 smaller units offered. There's now 2 smaller units as part of this current scheme, but there is an increased main A1 retail units. There is less parking. It goes down from 90 spaces to 78 spaces, but more cycle parking. The private amenity space has been increased quite significantly, so the overall quantum of amenity space has gone up, but the communal space, as has already been discussed, has come down. And there's associated internal and external alterations. So that's all listed in page 10 of your agenda, if you have a chance to flick through that. So having said that, I'll go on to my presentation, which now outlines the entire scheme as is before us today. Hopefully you can see the site plan in front of you at the moment. I'm assuming most of you know where Morrison's and Brentford High Street is. Just to the west of the site is the Beehive Public House. To the north is the police station, St Paul's House, St Paul's School, and to the east is the county courts, and then to the south of the site that's the high street itself, and beyond is the large redevelopment that's happening on the site opposite at the moment. Some site photos, again, I'm sure you're quite familiar with this, so I won't spend too long lingering on them, but these are pictures from the high street looking towards Morrison's as it currently stands, with the Beehive pub in the foreground or to the side, and then some more photos this time looking towards the car park and beyond. So this is a proposed site plan. You will see that it's spread over 2 blocks. One to the left of this drawing to the west of the site, which is the smaller block, which is the smaller retail units and the residential units above. And then to the east of the site, to the right of that drawing, is the larger block. So that's got the retail unit at ground floor level, the large footprint retail unit, and then you can see the communal amenity space that's in the middle of that, the U-shaped building, and then residential above, which will be clearer when I show you the floor plans. So this is the ground floor plan. Again, you can see the footprint, the floor plate of the large retail unit to the right, and then to the left is the 2 smaller units. And then I'll slowly go up. First floor plans essentially shared parts for the residential and avoid over the retail units. And then moving upwards, we go to the car park at 2nd floor level, which is accessed via back lane. There's a vehicular ramp to the right of that picture, to that plan. Residential units on the 2nd floor of the smaller building to the west, to the left, and then moving up through the floors. It's essentially a reproduction of the residential units up to the 9th floor, and then quickly the elevation. So this is a smaller block B to the west of the site, to the left of the plans, and block A, which is where the car park is at the moment, to the east of the site, which has got the retail building within its block, and then some illustrative elevation showing what it would look like. You can see on the right the Beehive in the foreground looking along Brentford High Street to the smaller block B, and some more details of block A there. And so that is what the original views look like. So I'll leave the slide on the proposed views. So it's probably worth noting that there's some additional balconies as part of this revised scheme, amended materials. That the loss in floor space, amenity floor space, has been explained, was due to some internal amenity space being removed. When that was removed, that's what facilitated the larger units. And then obviously the balconies have been put in place surrounding it. If I could draw your attention to the addendum, it does outline some modest amendments to the report. It also outlines, as Councillor Todd was discussing, there is now an agreement for the £35,000 contribution for the improvement of the park to the north of the site. And yeah, I should talk about sustainability, which is forming as part of the proposal. I've got no interest in taking issue with anything that Mr. Firkin says, or indeed anything that any of the councillors have said regarding the importance of climate change and sustainability. I'm afraid I'm going to say something much along the same lines as the applicant, that the reason this application is in front of you now with a recommendation for approval is largely to do with the nature of the application. I mean, simply, if you refuse this application, the fallback is a scheme with less sustainable credentials than this one has currently got. They have taken steps to improve sustainability as part of this current scheme. And I would also highlight that when the original scheme was approved, the London plan, it already stated that schemes should aim to be carbon neutral. So we have already approved a scheme within broadly the same policy requirements. One further thing I'd like to do, if that's okay, is that there's quite a lot of legal issues attached to this scheme. There was a judicial review from Morrison's on the first application, which failed. We have been receiving a number of legal challenges to this current application, which led to its withdrawal from the last committee agenda. So if it's okay, I might pass over to Jessica, if that's all right, Councillor Mann just to explain what the legal issues are, so you can have a bit of gravitas on the subject.
Okay, thank you, Matthew. Jessica, you want to come in?
Yes, so we have had some letters from Morrison solicitors about the Section 96A application and the Section 73 application, and we have looked at it very carefully, and we've taken advice from council on it, and the upshot is that we're confident that we've taken the right steps, and that there were some errors in the Section 96A letter, which are typographical errors. So we're confident that we're taking the right course of action in putting this before you this evening.
Okay, Jessica, thank you. Matthew, that's it. You don't want to come back in?
No, that's fine. That's the end of my presentation.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Right. Okay. Now, as I said to you, members, that this is a place where you're going to ask questions of the officer. Only questions. Then we will come back for a comment and debate. So, as before, I now ask members to ask questions of the officer, and I'll do this one by one. Let me go to Councillor Richard Foote. I'm hoping that Richard, you're on now.
I'm checking.
Oh, come on.
We can hear you.
I'm no longer muted. No, the only question that I've got is on page 15, paragraph 7.4. Halfway down, it talks about the floor area will increase from flexible A1, A2, A3 units would be reduced from 2 to 3. I'm taking that's a typo. Otherwise, my head's really spinning if it's not.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. That is of course a typo. It's 3 units was previously proposed. It is now 2 units proposed. My apologies for that.
That was my problem because I saw elsewhere that we were talking about 2 units, and so it was something that was confusing me. But that's the only questions I've got at this moment, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Before I ask Councillor Shiv Garwal to come in, just a reminder, when you get a red border across your screen, that's when you need to speak. Otherwise, it's very difficult for the people who are watching from their houses as to what's going on, because they may have a voice but no video. So just please wait for that and be minded to speak slowly. Okay, so Councillor Shiv Garwal, any questions for Matthew?
Thank you, Chair. I have no questions.
That's nice and simple. Okay, let me now ask Councillor Cleek Malik if any questions for Matthew Reese.
Thank you, Chair. I have not a question, but I got a comment. And
No. Let me stop you there, because a comment, it'll be in the second half, unless it's a question dressed up as a comment.
No, I haven't got a question, but I will later on. I'll come back for the comment.
That's fine. Okay, let's move on. So, Councillor Hina Mir.
No questions. Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Hina. Councillor John Todd.
Mr. Reese, we set out the council as an exemplar in anti-pollution, and we got an emergency. Did you push the applicant to be more radical or not?
Excuse me. So the question was asked in a similar manner that you've asked the applicants today as to what they can do to achieve a higher thermal efficiency and carbon offset through renewable energy. I'm afraid they are right. I mean, when they come back, I do believe it does seem fair to say that if they really want to push the envelope for sustainability far further forward, they are looking at significant wide-scale alterations to the proposed scheme. That's obviously not what is in. That's not what's in front of us today. I mean, it would be great to have some kind of decentralized heating mechanism to heat the units. It's just they can't do that as part of this current proposal. That's not to say that members can, obviously they've made their point and may continue to do so, and we can obviously relay that to the applicants that they should be doing what they can, but until they were to come back with a new full application, if they were to do such a thing, unfortunately that's kind of beyond our control.
Okay, Matthew, that's a very fair answer. I mean, they've just crept over the 35% line, and I think they've done a very good job altering the site. Lots of plaudits, but you do wonder. I don't really accept that it would be such a draconian change to replace gas with electric or whatever. I mean, I'll bow to your experience and allow you to comment if you want to.
No, I mean, you're right to point out so many come in with just 35%, and I think it's probably to their credit, I'd have to say that they have tried to push that envelope above 35%. I mean, when I see an application that proposes 35% reduction over building regulations, it's almost like they've just aimed from the outset to tick a box. They've not done that here, and they've on their own back have highlighted the issue. They could have ignored this as part of this application. We still would have had to have, recommended approval to you. I shouldn't say that you would have had to have approved it. I feel that they do deserve a degree of credit when it comes to that for this application.
Mackie, that's very helpful. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Councillor John Todd. Myself, I don't have any questions of Matthew, so thank you very much, Matthew. Now, we will go back over the same order for comments or any debate. So, as we've done this in the past, I shall start with Councillor Richard Foote. So, Richard.
Okay. Right. Can you hear me, Chair?
Yep, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. This is Councillor Richard Foote. Not much on the debate. I think I would pick up and reiterate that the applicant should be applying towards the future a method to try and find something that will replace the gas-fired heating. No, it's hot water system, isn't it? It's not heating. So the gas-fired hot water system, and put that in as something that can be done as soon as possible in the future. I appreciate that it's not something that you'd want to stop the development. I believe the development and the changes from this in terms of the properties availability and the types of properties that are available is far superior to the original development, and I would not want to lose any impetus towards getting these up and developed. But I would like really just to leave that comment that should look into the future.
Okay.
I think that's what John said, actually. Never mind.
Yeah, we all heard John. So John, it might be a good idea to mute your microphone before comments reach live on air.
Sorry, I do apologise.
Okay, so let me move on to Councillor Shiv Garwal for his comments or any debate that he wishes to engage in. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I've already put my suggestion across and I have nothing more to say.
Okay, thank you very much, Shivraj Garwal. Councillor Khalik Malik, any comments, any debate?
Thank you, Chair. I have read all the report, and as everybody has concern a little bit for carbon emission compliance, I am quite impressed the way it was mitigated to minimize the studio flat and with all the mixed units to have 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom, and that was quite good for the family units. Also, I think what I will ask for to make sure that it's a quite huge site and there is a lot attached roads and all the rest of it. We got magistrate court and we got police station around and all this. Can we ensure that all the congestion and pollution is mitigated during the demolishing and construction of the site? With this, I think overall is quite impressive, the site, and it will bring a lot for local community benefit. If that is okay, I would like to move this for officer recommendation rather.
Okay, before you move, let me finish the debate, because obviously I'm going to give you the opportunity at the end of the debate and the comment session for anybody to move whatever that they want to move. So I'm going to hold you there at this point in time, but I'm going to seek comments from Councillor Hina Mir.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Chair. No comments from my end. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Hina. Councillor John Todd. You're muted, John. Unmute yourself, please. Thank you.
Well, I was worried about being told off by Richard. Yeah, I apologise, Richard. Yeah, I think it's an excellent scheme and I fully support it.
Thank you, Councillor Todd. I have no comments to make. So now I will go back to Councillor Khalik Malik, because this is where you make your proposal, whether you wish to go along with the officer's recommendation. So can I ask Councillor Khalik to reiterate what he said slightly earlier?
Thank you, Chair. As I mentioned before, I fully support this proposal and this amendment and overall this side. There is a lot in good things in it, and with that, can we ask to make sure that congestion and pollution during the demolishing and construction, to make sure that, and I will go for officers with the officer's recommendation for approval.
Okay. Do I have a seconder?
I will second it.
Okay, there seems to be a multiple number of people seconding, but I heard Hina Mir first. Sorry to for John, who I saw your hand, but I heard Hina's voice first. And
I don't mind joining.
No. I will take Hina, you as being a seconder to it. Now, we've had a formal proposal that's been moved and seconded. So now we will go for a vote. Now, members, this is very important. May I remind all of you that you should only vote if you've heard all the debate on this application. I will now go along the members one by one to ask you to confirm that you've heard everything and to vote either for, against, or abstain on the proposal that is being made. So let's go back to the running order. Councillor Richard Foote, can you confirm that you've heard the debate and you've been present and your vote?
This is Councillor Richard Foote. I have been present during the whole debate and I vote in favour of the officer's recommendation.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Councillor Shivraj Garawal.
Thank you, Chair. I've heard all the debate and I am in favor of the officer's recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Just to recap, I've seen that both of you are present for the whole of the meeting. Yes. And you had left, so that'll be noted as well, that you were here for the entire debate. You've heard all the debate. So let me move on to Councillor Khalik Malik.
Thank you, Chair. While I was present during the whole debate, I'm for it.
Right, and you've heard all the evidence?
Sure.
Yes, thank you. Okay, that will be noted. Councillor Hina Mir.
I will vote in favour, and I have heard all the debate and was present at all times.
That's it, well done, thank you. Councillor John Todd.
I've been present throughout the meeting. I heard all the evidence, heard the debate, and I'm voting for it.
Okay, thank you, John. And myself, I've been present during the whole of the meeting, have heard the evidence, and I shall be supporting the application, the officer's recommendation. So that is carried unanimously. Can I thank all the members and all the officers. Before we move on to the next item, I think it's time that we had a comfort break. We've been at this now for almost just over two and a half hours. So the time now is literally 6:30. So can we have a adjournment till 6:40? So I would like to see all the members back here for 6:40. So wait till the system goes off air and you got to watch the live button there. Okay, so can we have that adjournment for 10 minutes, please? Adrian, Sadiq.
I won't be able to end it live. You'll just need to turn your cameras off and mute your microphones. That's all.
Okay. All right. Okay. So turn your cameras off and mute yourselves, and you've got 10 minutes. So
Councillor Mann, did you want to, the guillotine is at, can you hear me? It's Jessica. The guillotine is at 7:30.
Right. We'll move some. We'll get somebody to move the guillotine.
Want to move it now? Yeah.
Yeah. So before the start, yeah.
Yeah.
Or at the earliest.
Yeah, I'm online. Amrit, do you want me to move?
When we go live with all the other members present, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll move suspension of.
You can move that, Richard. Is everybody back?
No, still some missing.
Okay.
I believe we're only waiting for Councillor Mir, Chair.
Okay. As soon as Councillor Mir's on, then we'll kick off.
Yeah, I think that's the mayor's on, sir.
Is it? Okay.
Right.
You're ready, Chair, whenever you're ready.
Yep. Okay. I think welcome back, everybody. Councillor Todd, settle yourself.
Yep, I'm here. Thank you.
Okay. So welcome back, and we move on to our main agenda. Now, before we actually move on to item 6, which is 21 Manor Avenue, can somebody move suspension of standing orders? Councillor Foote, my vice chair.
Also move, Chair.
Okay, is that seconded? Okay, Councillor Todd, well done. Yeah, sorry, Councillor Garwell. Councillor Todd has seconded the suspension of standing orders. So let's move on to our item 6. Now, Sam.
Yes, Chair. Hello.
Right. So, Sam, will you briefly introduce this item, which is it's here by virtue of the fact that it is a member of the council, their application, so it follows a special route. So, Sam, in your own time, fire away.
Thank you, Chair. That's quite correct. So the reason the application is presented to Planning Committee this evening is because Councillor Summerer is the applicant. And the application concerns 21 Manor Avenue, which is a 2-storey semi-detached house on the western side of Manor Avenue, which is currently used as a small HMO, house of multiple occupation, for up to 6 people. The house has an existing single-storey side and rear extension which wraps around the house and projects 3 metres deep beyond the rear wall. The application proposes to extend the depth of this extension by a further 3 metres into the rear garden to project 6 metres in total, and this extension would occupy the entire width of the site. Thank you.
Okay, now normally we would have an applicant and an objector. On this one, there is only one speaker, and the speaker is for the applicant, which is Vivek Nard. Is Vivek online? Vivek?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Okay, right. Vivek, you have 5 minutes. Tell me when you're ready, and then we'll get the clock ticking.
Sure. I can't see my screen. Is it? Yeah, I can. Thank you. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak in support of the application. My views are, I go with the points as raised by the planning officer. So I would like to go with 7.9 and 7.10 from the and 7.11 from the officer report. The both adjoining properties, number 19 and 23, they have existing extensions with having depth of 6 meters. And then this, if you consider the overall elevation of 3 properties, then it gets a stepped elevation looking from the rear garden. And then and the proposed extension for number 22, that will align all the 3 rear extensions in one line, and that will harmonize the elevation if you're looking from the Rosemary Avenue. And also the rear side of number 21 is partially visible from the Rosemary Avenue because it is a second house from the junction. And my second point is regarding the number 7.17 up to 7.20, which as per the officer report is having impact on number 19. Adjoining dwelling number 19 has a 3 meter deep canopy in addition to 3 meter extension, and the canopy has a side solid panels and also the 2 meter high fence along the side boundary, which is already blocking the light and the outlook from number 19, which is same as the number 23 brick extension. So we don't think so that the introduction of extension up to 6 meter will have any impact on light or the outlook of number 19. And also given the height, his height are 2.9, which is lower than 3 meter under permitted development. And also the roof canopy or the canopy has a obscure roof covering, and the setback of new walls from the boundary, there should not be any overshadowing to the adjoining dwelling. And number 3 is regarding the internal areas, which are 7.22. The bedroom is extended, but the 2 roof lights has been introduced in middle of the room, and also the windows are full height, and the double door is also glazed. So that should provide the adequate light and ventilation to the room. And also because the bedroom has been extended, so that actually gives opportunity to the occupant to use the room for multi-purpose use, such as not just the bed sheet, so they can use the rear side or rear part of the room for maybe for storage or for the ensuite bathroom or as a TV area. So that will improve the living condition of the room, and also. And also the rear part of can be used as a common utility room or a bathroom, which will improve the number of facilities, shared facilities for the occupants, and the main intention of this extension is to provide the additional space for kitchen and the common area, which I think it is more important now in these days to maintain the social distance between the occupants who are because the property is in HMO. So I believe that the depth of the existing extension of adjoining properties, solid side panels for number 19, and the social distances distance in common area should be considered in the application. That's it from my side.
Okay, Vivek, thank you for that. Stay on the line. What we're going to do is now go through the members as before, one by one, for seeking questions of Vivek. Right. So, Councillor Richard Foote, questions to Vivek.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Can I first ask, it's not quite clear to me, is this property continuing as an HMO, a C4 HMO?
Yes.
Can you confirm how many residents are in situ?
There won't be any increase in number of occupants of the HMO. So the number of occupants will remain same up to 6.
So that's C4.
Yes, C4.
C4 HMO, not C
Yes.
general. Yeah, okay.
Yes. It is C4. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, and also I'm trying to find the picture of the drawing. There is a comment in here somewhere about the extension being an additional bedrooms and a kitchen, but I note in the drawing it says bedrooms and a bathroom. Can you quite tell me which it is?
Sorry,
on the drawing it shows 3 bedrooms. In the extension it shows 3 bedrooms and a bathroom.
No, on ground floor we have 2 bathrooms. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and 1 kitchen. So this and the
extension.
Sorry, Richard, just to come in there, the proposed extension plan that actually shows the first floor, right, and it shows the roof of the extension. So that's on page 89. It's image 2.
Yeah, I'm looking. That doesn't. I mean, image 1 is a photo of the rear elevation. So I do not have a plan of the ground floor of the extension. And as the extension can, you know, the extension is not just the first floor, is it? The extension is as a double story, isn't it?
It's Sam here. Yes. Would it be helpful if I displayed a plan submitted with the application displaying the ground floor?
Very helpful.
That in the documents, actually.
No, because they're available in the planning files. We can't put every drawing in the reports, but I've got it in the presentation here. So if you bear with me, I can just share that.
Okay.
Right, that should be coming up any moment now. And if you need me to zoom in, please let me know.
Yeah, please zoom in.
Yeah, certainly. There we go. So this is the ground floor here.
Right.
Okay, Richard, do you want to talk us through it?
I can't move the screen because I'm right. Yeah, I'm saying how many bedrooms are on the ground floor. I'm hard to see.
Sam, can you help out? Seeing as
yes, certainly, Chair.
On the ground floor.
That's correct, Councillor Foot. There are 3 bedrooms shown on the proposed plan on the ground floor, together with 3 bedrooms on the first floor, so a total of 6 bedrooms.
So where's the kitchen that's referred to in the plan, in the comment?
I'll need to defer to the architect for his particular comments. I'll mute myself here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Obviously, in a C4 HMO, requirement is that the bedrooms be no more than 6 in the property, and that there are shared facilities, basically a kitchen. And I'm trying. I see a kitchen diner. I presume is that in the original building?
Yes. So the existing kitchen is in the 3 meter extension, and we are looking to extend the kitchen by further 3 meters to have to give additional space as a common area for the occupants.
Okay, how many bedrooms are in the main part of the building, the original building?
3.
There are 3 in the original building. There are 3 on the ground floor.
Sorry.
On the first floor.
No, sorry.
So 9 in my
Richard, let Vivek come in, and then I'll ask you to come back in.
Okay.
So there are total 6 bedrooms in whole property. So 3 bedrooms are on ground floor, and 3 bedrooms are on first floor. We are not increasing any space on first floor. This is only for the ground floor extension.
Okay. Can I come in, Richard, before you come in? Richard's question to you was, is there an increase of bedrooms on the ground floor? So before the planning application, were there 3 bedrooms and they remain as 3 bedrooms?
Yes, they will remain as 3 bedroom. The rear bedroom has been extended.
Right. That wasn't only my question, Amrit. What I'm concerned about is we have a main part that what we're looking at is an extension. We have the main part of the building, right? The original house. Are there bedrooms in that original house that are being used?
Yes. So the original house has 6 bedrooms, and the number of bedrooms are not changed. They are still 6.
So hold on. In the extension, for ground floor and first floor, there are a total of 6 bedrooms.
Yes.
Now in the house, which is not shown in this plan, but further up, isn't it? Am I right?
Sorry, Sam, can you please zoom out?
So the extension, sorry, yeah, the extension is right from, if we look on the first floor,
Yes.
the bit with the roof lights over is over the top of the original building. Is that correct?
No, that is over the ground floor extension.
So if I move to the ground floor,
yeah,
what we see is the extension. We do not see any part of the main building.
No, the grey walls, these are the existing walls, and the walls shown in red color, they are the proposed walls.
So the green wall is the original building.
Grey, yeah, grey walls are the existing building, is the existing walls, and we are not going to demolish any wall. We the walls
what's on the first floor of the original building?
There are 3 bedrooms on first floor
of the original building.
Yes, there are 3 bedrooms.
So that makes a total of 9 bedrooms.
No. So we have 3 bedrooms on ground floor, and 3 bedrooms on first floor.
Yeah, but that's in the extension.
No. Richard, hang on. Can I come in? Right, Richard. What it is on the ground floor before any planning application, there were 3 bedrooms, and there were 3 bedrooms on the first floor. The extension that is proposed is extending the bedroom. There is no new creation of another bedroom. It is just an extension to the bedroom. So the bedroom is being enlarged.
But, right, so this, I thought there was an extension being built. So my question, I mean, look, is this first floor extension, the bit in pink, is this all new building?
Yes, so we only had, so this proposal is to extend the ground floor extension. Not the first floor. There is no proposal to extend first floor.
But the first floor, so the pink on the first floor.
No, yes. So the pink rooms. So the rooms shown in pink. These are the bedrooms.
And are they existing now before being built?
Yes. So these are the existing on the first floor. There is no change to the first floor.
Okay. Can I
come in? How many rooms the first floor consist? How many rooms the first floor have at the moment? The present condition, if you can clarify, Vivek.
There are 3 bedrooms on first floor.
Yeah, that's not what I'm having trouble with.
Councillors, it's Sam here. Would you like me, before we do any further questions with the architect, to do a more detailed overview of the layout of the property as it exists?
I think that, Sam, that's very helpful, because I think that Councillor Richard Foote, in terms of being well-meaning, maybe the color coding is probably distracting him, right? What I want you to do is to go through what is existing, what is proposed, and what's on the first floor, and if you can clarify that for all members.
Certainly. So I've got the existing plans in front of me now. I'm just going to draw around different bits in a red outline just to make it clear. So the original house, when it was built, would have had this footprint. So you would have had what you can see on the ground floor. You've got the bedroom, the stairs, a bit of the kitchen, and a bit of the back bedroom. That would have been the original house when it was built. Okay. Subsequently, the house has been extended in the past. So it has now a single-story rear extension, which is 3 meters deep, and it also has a single-story side extension as well. So these bits have been added to the house in the past, all at ground floor. And then what's proposed is the further extension on back of that. So that's the ground floor, and you'll see from the first floor, that's not been extended. So the first floor remains as the house was originally built, and also has the layout there, and that's not changing in this application either. I hope that was helpful, but if there's any further queries specifically relating to the layout, I can help, but if not, I'll divert back to Vivek and your questioning.
Because I'm seeing it was upside down in my view. Right, okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay, Richard, are you now clearer on this?
Yeah, I was assuming that the top part was the original part of the building, and that all of this in pink because that's what was said, is an extension.
Okay.
So I was thinking that the extension was coming down into the garden. It's not. It's coming across the side of the garden, isn't it?
Yeah. So okay. So just going from what Sam has said, and I'm hoping that that's more clearer. If any member feels that they need Sam to go through it again, I'm quite happy to let Sam go through it again, right? So that you understand what the planning application is for and what is being proposed. Members?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Chair, Sam made very clear
Yeah.
and understandable and practical. There's no doubt whatsoever for me.
Well, Sam, can you run through that little bit again regarding the ground floor and the first floor and what's proposed, right? Just for clarity's sake.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not a problem. So what I'll do is, if that was helpful, I'll use the boxes again. So one last time, obviously, this is what the original house was. Then it was extended to the side and then also to the back. The first floor remains as it was built with the 3 bedrooms and a bathroom, and that's going to remain the same in this current application. So what you have there, that is your existing building as it currently stands. So please don't focus too much on the colours of the rooms. They're just used to demark the different uses of the rooms. What you need to focus on the next slide, as you see here, the colours of the walls. So if I zoom in a little bit here, oh, gone a bit too far there. There we go. Right. So we can see the original house there as it was, and then with the extra extensions. And now what is proposed here is a further 3 metre deep extension on top of the existing, sorry, further back beyond the existing extension at the back. So this is the whole depth of it, 6 metres when you go back to the rear wall of the original house. But what you're determining this evening is the extra 3 metres beyond the existing extension, which is already there. And just for clarity, as you can see from the first floor plans here, the original first floor remains as it is. The extension is just this section here on the back of the original extension that's already existing at the property. Thank you.
Okay,
Right,
Sam, thank you very much. Richard?
Yeah, just saying the purpose of my question is trying to establish on the bedrooms, because it's obviously a C4 HMO has a limit of 6 bedrooms, 6 if you like flats, whatever you like to call them. If it moves upwards to 7, it becomes sui generis, which requires planning permission in its own right. And that's why I was asking the question, because the whole situation would have changed considerably if that had been the case. Am I right, Sam?
Yes, you are correct, Councillor Foote. So if the number of bedrooms was increasing and thus the occupancy of the house were to exceed 6 persons, then you would need a full planning application, because as you quite rightly point out, it becomes a large HMO, which is a sui generis use, which therefore does not fit in the C4 use class order. And that is not what is proposed here. The number of bedrooms remains as 6. And the extension will be to the existing ground floor rear bedroom, plus the kitchen and dining area, which is shared with the other bedrooms in the rest of the property.
Okay. Is there, sorry, did I see something as a detached building at the bottom of the garden? Was that noted somewhere?
You would have spotted that on my site visit photos. Sorry, bear with me 2 seconds. There you go. Yeah, that was observed on site to be used for storage.
It's not being used as residential.
When I attended the site in January, that was not the case.
It doesn't have a bathroom or a kitchen in it.
On site to give me that impression, and I did look through the windows.
Right, okay, all right. Okay, thank you. That's all, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Richard.
Yeah.
Right. Let's move on to Councillor Shiv Garawal to ask questions of Vivek about the application.
Thank you, Chair. I have only one question to ask Vivek, and that's to clarify one point, and the point is, can you clarify that there will be no additional bedroom?
There will not be any additional bedroom. Number of occupants will remain same as the current occupancy level.
That's fine. Thank you. No more questions.
Okay, let me ask Councillor Kalik Malik to come in.
Councillor Malik, you're on mute. Could you unmute your microphone, please?
My apology. Can you hear me at all?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that. Can you, Vivek, explain what the current amenity space common area which for occupant they use for their common area or laundry or for any recreation or for dining or for some sort of their living area. Can you explain what a space look like and how big is and where the amenity space is at the moment?
Sure. Can I ask Mr. Smith to go please to show proposed plans? Thank you. So on so on the ground floor, the common space is only the kitchen at the moment, which is 3 meter deep kitchen, and there is there is no separate common room for the occupants, and there are 2 shared bathrooms, one on ground floor and one on first floor, and there is a small ensuite bathroom for one bedroom. The proposal or the intention of the proposal is to extend the kitchen to give more common area and the additional kitchen space for the occupants.
Okay, thank you for that. So at the moment, what you're suggesting is they haven't got any quality amenity space whatsoever with the current existing building at all.
Well, they have only one kitchen, a 3 meter by 3 meter kitchen as a common or amenity space, and the kitchen also got the washing machine and other stuff. But there is no other amenity area like common room or TV lounge for the occupants. So they whatever, if they want to watch TV, then they will do in their own rooms.
Gosh. Okay, so the rear extension which already exists is 3 meter, and what you're asking for 3 meter additional, which will make total 6 meter. Am I right?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So the additional space, if you include that, so that will sort of improve their quality of recreation or sort of amenity space in addition to what they got.
Yes. Yes. And also, is like I'm looking from the current situation that because the occupants are not related to each other, so they are not from one household, and then to maintain social distances as the government guidelines, it makes more important also that the gas hobs and the sinks are 2 meter apart from each other. So it is a better use of the kitchen.
Okay, thank you for that. On the side of the house, which is 19 and 23, do they have rear extension up to 6 meter at all?
Yes, they have. Yeah.
Okay. So on this proposal, I'm sure there was consultation around the neighbors, and they must be aware. Is any objection around either side of the this house for this?
As far as I know, there was no objection received to the to planning. Mr. Smith can confirm that.
Okay, we'll wait for Mr. Smith, Sam, when he does his presentation in full, and members will have the right to ask questions of Sam. So at this moment in time, Councillor Malik, any further questions to Vivek?
No, thank you. I will let other members carry on to ask the question. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Klik. Councillor Hina Mir.
Thank you, Chair. I have a couple of questions for Vivek. How many neighbours have been consulted so far for the proposal, and how many objections on it, which are not on the papers at the moment, but maybe you have received any documentation? That's question one. And the other one is, I will echo with Councillor Garewal question, which he said, can you confirm there will be no extension apart from the 6 bedrooms you have at the moment?
Yeah, well, I can confirm
That's number two. I can put my questions to you and you can answer thereafter.
Sure.
Question 3, the extension will be used for, that's again Councillor Malik, I'm echoing what he said, the extension will be used for the betterment of the residents, or the extension for the current bedroom which is already existing over there, or what will it be used for? So
Okay.
that's my 3 questions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Number 1, as per the officer report, 3 neighbors were consulted for this proposal. Number 2, the occupancy level of the whole house or the dwelling or the HMO will remain 6. There won't be any increase in number of people for the whole dwelling, and the intention for the extension is to give more amenity area to occupants.
Okay.
So there will be a distinction between the. It won't be extended as for the bedroom. It will be a distinction between the bedroom and the area which will be used for the occupants of the property.
Yes. So on towards number 23 on the left hand side, the existing bedroom has been extended because we are looking to extend the full width of the house, but the large part of the extension is given to the kitchen.
All right. So the purpose for the extension will be used for the occupants, not for as extension of the bedroom. Just let me clarify that. So, and it'll be used for the betterment for the occupants already in the property. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So it will give them more amenity area and common space.
Okay.
And
thank you for
and
confirming.
the large kitchen area.
Okay. Thank you for confirming. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Hinamir, and thank you, Vivek. Okay. We're going to go on to Councillor John Todd.
Vivek, good evening.
Good evening, Mr.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, very nice to meet you. I've read the report and it's quite clear that in January this year, you were told the planning application was to be refused. Would you agree with that?
Yes, generally after the public consultation is done, then I contact the planning officer to know if they have any initial feedback for the proposal, and then I was advised by Mr. Smith that their recommendation is for the refusal.
Okay, and you've now seen the planning report, which we have.
Yes, I have. Yes.
And never mind what the extension is going to be used for. What the report says in a number of areas, it talks about sunlight. It talks about things which are wholly unacceptable and are breaches of planning law. So what adjustments have you made since January to try and comply with planning regulations?
Well, I was in discussion with Mr. Smith, and then I was trying to offset the kitchen wall, but then Mr. Smith was saying that they can't give the permission to extend the kitchen. Only the bedroom will be extended, which is not our intention for the proposal. That's why if we would have made the changes as requested by the planning officer, then that would achieve the objective of the proposed extension.
Well, I'm quite unclear about what your objectives are, but can I pick you up something? I'm not quite sure. I think you mentioned you're an architect. Is that correct?
I am. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. I don't challenge that in any way. Yeah. You say we are looking to do this, that, and the other. Do you own the property, or who's your client?
Councillor Sohan Sumra.
Okay. So, as an architect, when you see the harm, I'm going to give a couple of examples, to number 19, to extend in certain limits, and the officer's gone into a lot of detail showing how he's not prepared to give planning permission. What are you looking us to do? To grant it in sympathy, or to ignore what his report?
No, the number 19 has got 3-meter extension in brick and as a solid extension.
No, I
and they
understand that, but he makes comments as to various matters like light and various other things, and you don't address that. You just stick on the proposed use. That to me is academic, the use.
Yes, but what is not mentioned in this in the report, that along the number 19 up to the 6 meter where they got the canopy, there is a solid the solid paneling on the side of the canopy, and also the existing fence along number 19 is 2 meter high. So the light from the side is already blocked, and the eaves height are 2.9. And there is a slight and there is a small setback from the boundary line, so there should not be any overshadowing on the roof of the existing canopy.
Well, how am I supposed to prove that? Where's your submission?
There is a photograph on.
Where's your submission?
Well, I have already sent photographs to Mr. Smith.
Okay, fine. Vivek, thank you for your time.
Okay, Vivek. Last one is me. I've got a couple of questions, right? And Councillor Todd has touched upon one, which is the light issue. And you've said that he's got some solid paneling, and there's also a canopy, which is, shall we say, opaque. It's not allowing a lot of light in, right?
Yes,
Is that right? Okay.
It is obscure, yeah.
It's obscure. Okay. So So in terms of light issue, there's no light coming from above, and there's no light issues in regards to the solid paneling going from number 21 to number 19 or vice versa.
Yeah. Well, there won't be any impact on the light coming from the top, because we're not going to, because the eaves height are 2.9 meter high. So they are not very high.
Okay, but in the report, it mentions that there is the impact of light, right? So that's what I'm asking you to address, that in terms of the side paneling and also the above. And you've already told me that the above is obscure, right? And the side paneling, he's got some boarded out, which then also has an impact on light. Okay, now the second part is number 23 projects out how many meters, and number 19 projects out how many meters?
6 meters. So number 23 has got 6 meter extension made in solid brick and the roof, whereas the number 19 also got 6 meter extension, which and the 3 meter is in the solid brick wall, and the further 3 meter is in the form of a canopy, which has a side solid panels.
Okay.
So both properties on the sides have got 6 meter existing extension.
Okay. If there are 6 meters on the left hand side and the right hand side, yeah, would you regard the application as an infill?
Well, infill between two properties.
Yes.
Well, it's not infill because we are not using the party wall of either property, so it is a setback from the side boundaries. So I won't say it is infill, but it is between it is a proposed extension between two existing extensions.
Okay, but it's coming up is coming out no greater or no lesser than what is the 6 meters on the left and right.
Yes, yeah. So there is it won't be projected beyond the existing extensions.
Fine. My last question, and this is really for clarification, because there seems to be some issues that the bedroom is not an additional bedroom, it is an extension to the bedroom.
Yes, it is extension to the bedroom.
Okay, that's fine. I'll leave it there. Vivek, look, thank you very much, and we're going to now move on to the officer's report from Sam, and so some of the issues that were brought up he would address in his report. Okay, so you're welcome to stay on. Let me ask Sam. Sam, can you have do the presentation on the fuller report, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to pick up on a couple of aspects before we go into the formal presentation in a bit more detail, and particularly with regards to the considerations that you are addressing this evening as set out in my report. Now, I understand the agent has just explained to you with regards to the proposal is there to improve the living quality for the residents of the home of multiple occupation. So the applicant has converted the property to a house of multiple occupation under the provisions of the General Permitted Development Order, i.e. it does not require planning permission. So in the Permitted Development Order, there is no requirement with regards to quality of accommodation for homes of multiple occupation. So the Permitted Development Order just permits homes of multiple occupation of up to 6 people to take place. That's really what it says, and that they will have shared facilities. That's the key criteria here of a C4 HMO. Where the quality of accommodation is assessed in Hounslow is through our housing enforcement and licensing, because we have an additional licensing scheme with regards to homes of multiple occupation, which applies across the borough. So any assessment with regards to the impacts on the quality of the accommodation falls under the licensing regime of housing enforcement. We're not assessing this as a large HMO, so our HMO policy is not engaged. We are assessing this as a single-storey rear extension because the permitted development right allows the property to flip back to use as a single-family house without planning permission as well. It flips both ways. Quality of accommodation for small HMOs in Hounslow is addressed through our additional licensing scheme, which is administered by housing enforcement. So we need to be clear on that. The considerations for you this evening are set out in my officer report, which are the relevant material considerations you should assess this application on. Irrespective of that, if you were to consider the amenity, you would have to consider as to whether it was possible to achieve the same outcome without causing the harm that has been identified in my report to you. For example, would it be possible to convert an existing bedroom to provide additional amenity space, etc. Notwithstanding, as a factual observation, I did observe that the kitchen is laid out already with a small seating area. As you can see probably from the floor plans, it's kind of got a bit of an L shape. Sorry, I'll just go to the existing ones. There you go. It's got a bit of an L shape there. So you can see when you go through the door, there's some seating there before you get to the actual kitchen, etc. So I just wanted to clarify those two things before I go into the presentation in more detail. And then obviously, if there's anything further, we can pick that up in questions. So just to reiterate again, the surrounding area is largely suburban character. It's very similar design to all the houses on that estate, and a number of them, as we have quite rightly pointed out this evening, do have extensions of varying size and depth. I draw your attention again to the proximity of the site to Rosemary Avenue, which runs just to the site of the south of the adjoining neighbour at number 23. Now, if we're considering the design of the proposed extension, the proposed width and depth of the extension would exceed the recommendations which are set out in the Council's Residential Extension Guidelines Supplementary Planning Document. And given the visibility of the site from Rosemary Avenue, the public realm of Rosemary Avenue, greater weight to this conflict with the guidelines must be given, in my professional opinion, than what may be the case elsewhere on other properties on Manor Avenue. The key thing here is the public visibility of this site and the rear garden when compared to other properties elsewhere in the vicinity. And for this reason, in light of that site context, the proposed design, by virtue of its depth and width, would be harmful to the character and appearance of the house in the local area. And considering the impact on the neighbours, so as we have quite rightly pointed out this evening, the property at number 23, which is this one here, has an existing 6-metre deep rear extension off the back of the house, and that was exercised. That was derived from the exercising of the permitted development rights again, and the prior approval process. So obviously the application is just submitted, and if it complies with the terms and no objections are received, it's deemed to be approved in that matter through prior approval. So it's not assessed against our local plan policies, which obviously restrict the depth of rear extensions to semi-detached properties to 3.65 metres. So that one has the solid wall there, and there's no windows facing onto the site. So with regards to that neighbour, which is number 23, there are no concerns with regard to any impact on that neighbour, given that particular aspect. If we turn to the other property at number 19, I beg your pardon. What we can see here, and I've got this in a bit more detail closer on this image, is this is the canopy here. So at the moment, it's got an obscure glazed roof. And I just want to clarify, to avoid any confusion, the difference between obscure is that you can't see through it, but light permits through, whereas opaque would be that there is no visibility through it and you can't get any light through. So it is an obscure roof rather than an opaque. So it's got glazing here and it's been enclosed on the side adjacent to the boundary of number 21. And you can see here, I wasn't quite sure where Vivek was referring to. The panels which have been installed are on the applicant's side of the fence, which you can see there. And the materials used in the canopy extension at the back onto this property is clear glazing. So the fencing, the extension to the fencing with the panels there is on the applicant's side, and the existing extension at the neighbour is clear glazing on that side. So that's really where our concern arises. Because in this instance, you've got a situation where you have an extension which is made of materials which are going to be far more sensitive to any loss of light or outlook than perhaps if there were a solid brick wall, as is the case at the other adjoining property at number 23. This is the key consideration here. It is the materials of the existing extension at number 19 which render this proposed development to be unacceptable. Because it is clear glazing, there will obviously be greater harm with regards to loss of light and outlook than if that extension were constructed of a solid brick wall on that elevation there. So that is the really key consideration here with regards to why we have decided and assessed as officers that the application would be unacceptable and contrary to our policies with regards to protecting neighbours' living conditions for extensions. I hope that has been helpful, and if you do have any further queries, more than happy to assist. Thank you.
Okay, Sam, thank you very much. Now, questions to Sam, and I will start again with Councillor Richard Foote. Richard?
Right, you should be hearing me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, good. Sam, I'm becoming muddled because the plans that I have on my papers don't match some of the ones you've been showing. So when I try to refer to these, I get a bit befuddled. But this particular photograph that's up at the moment, at what stage does that, is that immediately prior to any building that's going to come from the plan? I mean, is that the current situation of the house?
So these photographs were taken when I attended a site visit in January of this year. So the extension would, so you can see where the boundary lies. You've got the fence there that runs along, and then you can see where the two extensions are separate.
I just wanted to be sure. Can you show the whole picture?
Yes, most certainly, Councillor. Sorry, please bear with me. There you go.
Well, the right-hand side of the house. I'm not talking about next door.
I beg your pardon. 2 seconds. There you go.
Yeah, right. Okay. So this is as it is now. So the plan is to is there a first floor extension?
No, Councillor Foote. The application is basically to bring you, so you can see the existing building at the ground floor and the extensions there. The plan is to bring those forward into the garden.
Okay, so this bedroom that they're showing, which must be here.
So that's the bedroom window there. I'm just wiggling my mouse now. I don't know if you can see that.
The plan that would come out to the 6 metre rule.
Yes, that is correct. So there's that bedroom now. That's it coming up.
Because I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at this bedroom here, which comes right the way across the top. I'm presuming that at the moment it goes to just under where the skylights are. But it's then going to continue right the way across. But
so in terms of there's no extensions at first floor level. So the first floor bedrooms remain as they currently are. and the extension's only at the ground floor.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The bedroom here on the left-hand side.
Yes.
Currently goes as far as the where you've got the drawing in. That's the skylight, isn't it?
Yes, that's the skylight. You're correct. Yeah.
That's existing in the current situation. So that bedroom is going to be extended across there. Because I was a bit concerned because one of the claims made by the speaker was that, that there was a need to, especially with the pandemic that we're in, there need to provide greater space for people to move out of their bedrooms. Well, this doesn't do that, does it?
So, I mean, I can't comment on the terms of what the guidance is in respect of houses of multiple occupation, although I believe they are treated as a single household because they share facilities such as bathrooms and kitchens, etc. So they're not independent households. I believe it is a shared household for it to be a home of multiple occupation. But the extension would extend the depth of that bedroom by a further 3 meters. So in total, it would be approximately 10 meters deep. In total from this rear wall here, and then you've got the kitchen area there as well, which would be enlarged by this addition at the back. So if I zoom in a bit, you can see, oh sorry, let's jump to the page there. So you can see the extent of the extra kitchen, because part of that will also be a bathroom for the existing bedroom.
Okay, yeah, because I'm realising that part of this, if you didn't do that to the bedroom, you'd have no windows into it. There would be no windows into that bedroom without it extending all the way up.
There is already a window in the bedroom as it currently is. That's not changed. The bedroom there, you can see on this existing drawing here, it has some patio doors and 2 windows either side. So the bedroom does already have a window.
Right. Yeah, but in the extension, if they built the extension, they would need to make sure they move that window up.
You're quite right, yeah.
Yeah, okay, right. I'm just following my head, okay. Because the other thing that I looked in there was a very tiny bedroom on the first floor, and I wondered why that wasn't sort of used to extend, but I can see now it has to have the window. Okay. Yeah, I think that's... Yeah, that's all I got to say. Yeah.
Okay, Richard. All right.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Councillor Shiv Garwal. Any questions to Sam?
Yes, Sam. I have 4 questions from you, and please could you answer those questions in yes or no? And if I need any clarification, I will request that from you. Okay, the first question here is that have you had any objection from number 19 or number 23?
No.
Thank you. My second question is extension at number 23. Is it visible from Rosemary Avenue?
Yes.
Thank you. Question number 3. At number 19, the plastic sheeting from your report says is lawful.
Pardon, sorry, I don't understand the question you're asking.
Okay, I'll repeat that. At number 19, the plastic corrugated sheet extension is lawful under the 4-year rule.
That is correct. It's been present for many, many years.
Thank you. And question number 4 is under permitted development for large home extension scheme, 6-meter extension is permitted if there is no objection from either neighbors.
Can I ask the context in which you're asking me that question, please?
I'm asking you in the context is if the plastic sheeting in number 19 is lawful. Tomorrow at number 19, he can have a brick extension there for 6 meters.
That's incorrect. As I explain in the fallback section of my report, yes. Which I'll direct you to now, if you bear with me. I do apologise, I don't have the page numbers on my version that you have, but it's paragraphs 7.24 and 7.25. Yep. So The fallback position would not apply at this property or the adjoining property at number 21 because it's not permitted to have a larger home extension where the extension would project beyond an original side wall of the building and the overall width of the extension would be greater than half the width of the house. So it would not be permitted to have a prior approval extension at either this property, the subject one, or number 19. Number 23 has exercised their permitted development rights because that extension does not wrap around the side walls of the house.
Right. Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Okay. Councillor Khalik Malik.
Thank you, Chair. I think mostly the question been asked. My specific question is from Sam. Could you please answer that? The amenity space, which in the middle of corridor, when you enter the building, you mentioned about that there is only small area where there is a seating, is the people that sit around for their recreation or for their dining or for anything, which you mentioned earlier on that if it's HMO for the 6 people, it does not require as a quality accommodation or something. It is from enforcement team, they look at the quality and so on. If maybe not very clear, but this is my understanding is what you mentioned about. But my clear, I'm really concerned about, and I'm confused here. The quality of accommodation, no matter whether is I think it should be looked at prior to give any permission for the people who are occupant, whereas this is not the case here. By extended what they are asking for, that will provide at least some sort of a reasonable space for the occupant to have some sort of a reasonable place for their quality of living, and especially for amenity space, for extension, for reasonable space for the kitchen, and by extending their bedroom, that might have some impact on the living standard of the area. So that's my probably comment, or maybe you consider as a question. This is where I'm confused, that there should be some sort of reasonable the quality space for the people who are occupants. So that is my view, and that's where I'm looking at in support of that extension.
Okay, Councillor, just as I reiterated at the beginning, the quality of accommodation is not a material consideration. Well, sorry, it's not a material consideration in respect to the C4 HMO where it's been done under permitted development. The alternative as well is if that's what you're considering, you need to weigh that against whether it could be achieved by means which would not result in harm to the neighbours' living conditions. So obviously we've quite clearly identified that there will be significant harm which warrants refusal of the application on the impact of the neighbours through the extension as well. So there's obviously, if that was what you were looking at, you need to balance the two considerations there between the impact on the neighbours and whether improved accommodation could be achieved by other means than not impacting on the neighbours. And again, I have to reiterate that the quality of the accommodation is not assessed through the planning process. For small HMOs in the London Borough of Hounslow, we have an additional licensing scheme which is administered by the Housing Department, and they deal with the quality of accommodation when issuing their licenses for HMOs. And this property does have an HMO license, so they were obviously satisfied with the quality of that accommodation in issuing that license at that time. I hope that was helpful.
Right.
Sam, thank you. I think that was quite a reasonable answer. But where I'm confused is that the property and the right property on the left, they got similar extension permitted development.
This is question. This is statement. Sorry.
So that's my comment, Councillor Todd.
Right. Sorry. Before anything, we move on. This is solely to ask questions of the officer.
Okay.
To get more information, some things that you're not clear about, some things that you may want to look at in a different way, Sam would have the knowledge on that basis, right? So let's try to stick to just questions,
Okay.
because there will be an opportunity to debate and make comments, which some of you are already making. But okay, let's go on to I would take it that Councillor Khalid Malik, that you've finished with your questioning.
I finish with apology if anybody have any concern of my words or the statement which I have given, especially
Okay.
Councillor
Todd. Let's move on, right? Okay, Councillor Hina Mir.
Hello, good evening, Sam. Right. My question is the objection, the only objection I can see from the neighbors is, and from your perspective, is that it will change the look of the neighborhood properties adjacent to the proposed property, the extension, where there is an extension next door. So my question is, how will it change the look of the neighborhood, to be honest, the properties next door or on the street? That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mir. So again, I reiterate the difference in the extensions, and I'm just going to go to my aerial imagery here just to show you. So what we have here, so the extension to the adjoining neighbour that you're referring to does not wrap around the house. So you see there, you've got the 6 metre deep rear extension that we've been looking at before, and that stops at the edge of the property. It doesn't go around the side. And then they've got a separate side extension.
Sorry,
now,
to intervene. So you mean to say this is a mid terrace? It's not end terrace or semi?
It's a semi-detached property, Councillor. They have been extended, so they do join, but for the purposes of planning consideration, it remains a semi-detached house. But what you've got here, so again, I reiterate that the comparisons between other extensions, we need to be careful drawing because they are different. This one here doesn't wrap around the two separate ones, and that complies with the intent of our residential extension guidelines, SPD, which seeks to avoid wraparound extensions on properties. So what the concern we have here is where we have the existing wraparound extension, which is a historic example. So it was granted planning permission a long time ago under a different policy regime, but that wouldn't comply with the intent of our policies today or our supplementary planning guidance, because it ends up, as you quite rightly described it, as a terraced house. So that's the point, is to maintain that definition of the properties as semi-detached. And it's particularly important on this property because of the visibility from the public realm on Rosemary Avenue. Whereas if it was perhaps further up the street, where it's not as visible, it may be a different consideration. But for this particular property, the material considerations and the site context are such that we have to give greater weight to where there would be a wraparound extension. And again, I would avoid drawing direct comparisons to number 23 because it's materially different to what we have before us this evening.
Okay, thank you very much, Sam, for the detailed information you've given. What are the comments for the 6 meter extension? We have just next door neighbor, they have 6 meter extension there. So
which
how
neighbour, sorry, Councillor, number 19 or number 21?
Number 19, yeah. Number 19, is it?
Yeah, so number 19 is the one to the north with the canopy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so again, that was erected without planning permission, but it has become lawful through the passage of time. But again, as I have reiterated during the course of the evening, the materials that have been used to build that extension are such that it would suffer from significant harm arising from loss of light and outlook because it's a glazed side elevation. If it was a solid brick wall, then the considerations would obviously be different because you wouldn't be permitting light through the side. But at the moment, light is permitted through the side elevation there. And that's obviously what the key difference is to other extensions where you would have a solid brick wall. So it's really important to deal with the specific characteristics of this site, which make it different on this occasion, which is why we're obviously recommending it in light of the context because of the specific impacts on these neighbours and the specifics of the site context.
Okay, Hina. Any further questions, Hina?
Sorry, Councillor Mayor, you're on mute. Could you repeat that?
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, that's fine.
That's
okay.
it from my end. Thank you,
yeah,
Sam.
No, no,
Thank
that's
you for the
fine.
detailed
Thank
answer. Thank you.
Right. Okay, Councillor John Todd.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. I think you've written a very balanced and fair report. Can I try and come to some brief conclusions and tear me apart if I'm wrong? Lots of my colleagues have suggested there's a subjective interpretation into various matters, the quality of the accommodation and stuff like that. But is it a statement of fact that what has taken place is a breach of planning law? And however you interpret it, you can't get away from that extension is not lawful.
So are you referring to number 19, sorry, the canopy extension?
I'm talking about the application, this application.
So the application is not, sorry, maybe I'm not quite following what you're saying here with regards to legal.
Should I start again then? Yeah, okay. We've heard lots of interpretation from my colleagues in the questioning about the quality of accommodation, a whole host of things really, whether people have objected or not. You decided, I presume, supported by your colleagues, that it should be refused.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah. Was that a difficult decision to make?
No, because in terms of what so we have at Hounslow, we have a very detailed residential extensions guideline document, which we use to assess any householder or small HMO extension which comes through to us for planning permission. And that sets out quite clear parameters that we expect for development in the borough. And obviously the development, for the reasons I've set out in the report, would not comply with that. And there's also conflict with our adopted policies with regard to protecting the character and appearance of the area and neighbours' living conditions.
I mean, that's very clear to me. On that basis, there is mention of objectors in the report, despite what some of my colleagues say. What they say is relevant, but it wouldn't persuade you on your final decision.
That's correct, Councillor Todd. Irrespective of where the comments have been received, we would make the same assessment against the same policies, irrespective of whether any objections had been received or whichever neighbour or whoever submitted those objections. The same assessment takes place irrespective of that against our adopted local plan.
Okay. I'm personally shocked, I suppose this is mainly a question for the lawyer, that a matter that's refused, let's just deal with the first part of my question, yeah. Has the architect made later submissions that you believe would allow approval?
So we did seek to engage quite extensively with the applicant's agent, as he did contact me to seek my thoughts on the application. And the council, the officer's position was that to gain a positive recommendation, the extension would need to be completely set back from this neighbouring property here. So they could have the extension along the southern boundary, but it wouldn't be permitted to extend to the northern boundary. We did receive some amended plans during the determination period, which set in the extension by 1.25 metres, but I advised that wouldn't be enough set in to overcome the harm that we'd identified, and irrespective, those amended drawings were withdrawn by the applicant. So we are just considering the original application this evening with the original drawings, which is the full width of the site.
So is it fair to say you continued cooperating with the applicant and you made some very sensible suggestions?
Yes, we engaged and advised the applicant when they requested we did so.
Can you help me with this? And it may be a question for the legal officer. I've been on planning committee a while now, and we frequently have applications by members. I think Tom Bruce had one the other day, and other people that come to us and they're recommended for approval. I don't know of any other case where it's refused and you pursue the matter. Why does it come to this committee if it's refused?
The scheme of delegation on advice from our head of governance is the case that any councillor application, whether approval or refusal, must be determined by the planning committee. It doesn't make distinction between whatever the recommendation is. So that was the advice of the head of governance at the council.
Okay, that's very clear. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, John. Now that leaves me. I've got a number of questions, Sam. The property at number 19, by virtue of time, it's lawful, right? What is stopping number 19 building a brick wall along the joining line, boundary line between number 19 and number 21? Sorry, you're on mute.
Sorry, Councillor.
Yeah.
So the extension as is currently there is only lawful as it currently stands.
Right.
So if there was like a material change to that extension, then obviously it's a different extension to what's become immune through the passage of time. And obviously there's different permitted development rights with regards to walls and the height and everything like that. And the height normally on a boundary is a maximum of 2 meters. If it was just a solid wall that was built there. But obviously for an extension, the permitted development is 3 meters, but because of the depth, it's 6 meters past the rear wall, it wouldn't be permitted development. So they would need planning permission to change that wall there.
Okay, so if they applied for a certificate of lawfulness to retain what they got, yeah, and then could they build a brick wall?
No, because a certificate of lawfulness would only cover the extension as is currently there.
Okay. Some of the members raised an issue regarding the visibility of the site from Rosebery Avenue, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I visited that site, and looking at Rosebery Avenue, there's actually a 2-meter fence up. If you were to stand well back, you might catch the tops of number 23 extension, right? Which is 6 meters. Would another 6 meters be that obtrusive that it actually falls outside of our planning policy?
Yes, that is correct. Our supplementary planning document with regards to single-storey rear extensions seeks to avoid wraparound extensions to avoid a terracing effect, and greater weight on this occasion is given because of the public visibility from Rosebery Avenue to that breach of the SPD.
Okay. We talked about a wraparound, which wasn't allowed on number 23. Right, and hence you've got the 6 meter and then basically the garage site being left vacant. Yeah. Now this has got a wraparound, as you say, a historic wraparound. In terms of the impact of that wraparound, going back a few years, what is the negative impact of that wraparound on the street scene?
So the issue of a wraparound is that they create a terracing effect, and therefore you lose the character of the properties being semi-detached. That is the ultimate aim, is to avoid all the extensions joining together. Obviously, I can't comment on the assessment that the planner made at that time. And obviously, due to the passage of time, our planning policies are different to respond to the needs of the development we currently deal with. So whilst it may be historical, obviously it was deemed to be acceptable at that time, but it wouldn't be if it were assessed against today's policies.
Okay, my last question. When you look at the aerial photograph of this site and this road, if you look at particularly number, I think 12 and number 14, which is on the other side of the road, and you look at the extensions there, how many meters do you think, just looking at it, I'm not as qualified as you, but to see what sort of depth of projection they're going back and whether that's within our UDP or planning guidelines?
I'm sorry, I wouldn't like to comment on that without measuring the plan so as not to ill-advise the committee.
Okay, is there any chance we can zoom in on number 12 and number 14 so that the committee can actually have a look as to what's currently there and how it's affecting the street?
Number 12 and 14, Chair?
It's the one, that's it, I think, yeah, the one further down.
Let me just verify before we, if you can bear with me 2 seconds, I'm just checking the addresses. Sorry, you referred to number 12, Manor Avenue.
I think it's number 12. It's basically
So
one,
number
two.
12 is these ones here. This is
No,
number
it's
12.
it's the ones lower down. That block, which is slightly lower down. No,
So we've got
up a bit.
This one here.
No, up to that one. That one, yes.
So that's number, yeah, that's number 14 and 16.
Okay, 14 and 16, yes. That looks quite sizable in relation to the rest of the properties. I'm just wondering what's the sort of size that it would be, and you're saying that you don't want to comment on it.
I can't comment on the size without measuring the plan, but I would avoid drawing direct comparisons because those properties are not directly visible from the street scene, those extensions, because of obviously the distance. We're dealing with a completely different site context, albeit it's on the same street. I do reiterate the point that it's the specifics of the site context here.
Okay. Okay. All right. Look, that's fine. I'm just looking at that site. That's fine. So let's. I have no further questions for you, Sam. Let me just move on to the members. Now we're going to move into the comments and the debate section of this. So again, I will run for the purposes of everybody. I'm going to run in the same order. So I will ask Councillor Richard Foot first for his comments and debate. Richard.
Sorry. All right. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm as a debate. I'm rather concerned about some of these properties because, you know, the properties on either side. We're talking about things that were not permitted development. They became that because of the passage of time. When they were put in, they survived for 4 years without anybody discovering them or reporting them, and they got away with it. And there are many examples of that in the borough, but it doesn't mean that next door can replicate what's been done because they're not protected by the 4-year rule. So it's, you know, from that sort of situation, I don't see that you could actually say that this 3 meters is there. I think the other point that Sam makes about the wraparound is also a situation, and I don't see any reason why that if the extension that was proposed was actually brought in and instead of going right out to the side, you know, came in 1.5 meters or 2 meters or whatever it is, that would have been bringing it closer to legality. It would have taken away the daylighting effect of it all and the situation going across. And it wouldn't really have affected, because if you look at the bedrooms that are on that side, there's some 10 to 12 meters long, that one bedroom. So as if actually the extension came in 1 meter, that would not seriously affect the amount of available space, because the bit of the bedroom that would be left would still go out as far as the end of the extension, but it would just be coming away from the neighbour more. And I think, if I'm right, I think that's what Sam had been suggesting, something similar to that, to the applicant's representative, but they decided to not take his advice. And that puts me in a difficult situation. So something's buzzing here. Anyway, so that's really the only comments I've got to make about it. You know, sort of almost 2 wrongs don't make a right. Cheers, Chair.
Okay. Richard, any further, or that's the end of that? Yeah. Hello, Richard. Have you finished? Richard? Okay, I'd assume that he's gone off.
I had said that's the end, and I had come out and muted. Sorry, Chair.
Oh, sorry, my mistake. Okay. let me move on to Councillor Shiv Garwal for his comments and his debate.
Thank you, Chair. After listening to all the comments from Sam and the members of the team, I still feel that common sense should prevail. If committee minded to approve, the proposed extension, I feel, would not be harmful to neighboring residents by virtue of its size, scale, and design. The extension, I feel, would not be excessive in depth and width, giving adjoining properties are already the depth and width as proposed extension. Right. Furthermore, the proposed extension would be less visible than the extension at number 23 and more in keeping with the local area than the existing structure at 19 Manor Avenue. Therefore, I would like to move approval.
Okay, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop you there, Councillor Garwal, because what we're going to do is we're going to go through for comment and debate from the members, and at the end of which, if you're moving whatever you're moving, I will come back to you. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, right. Can I now ask Councillor Click Malik for his comments and debate? Click.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not very fan of HMO or so on, but this is the first time, to be honest, I'm confused by looking at the right of the property, left of the property, and within the situation where we I'm very much into the quality of the occupants and residents and so on. I'm really confused on this whole scenario where the application is before us.
That's really helpful.
Okay, that's it, Councillor Khalid. Okay, right. Let me move on to Councillor Hina Mir.
Nothing from my end. Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, Councillor John Todd.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, John.
Yeah, I do apologise.
Yeah, we can just see the top of your head. You might want to put your camera. Yeah, okay.
I've got cheap furniture. This is quite a unique case, and I'm shocked about what some of my colleagues have said. You've heard my question in the officer. He's balanced, conscientious, and he's applying contemporary planning. He's applying contemporary planning. This is an unlawful extension. There is no ambiguity. Some of our colleagues talk about common sense. Planning is not common sense, it's law, it's practice. Councillor Malik is confused. Well, I'm baffled by his confusion. The officer couldn't be more clear. He would help, he's tried to help, but it hasn't failed. And I do want to remind people, I hope it doesn't sound too patronising, that this committee has an obligation to uphold planning standards in Hounslow, disregarding the applicant. We must apply the decisions according to the rules and how we've been advised. There is no ambiguity in this report. It is not an approved extension. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, John. Okay, in terms of my comments, okay, well, look, I always regard planning as a very subjective science. It's really in the eye of the beholder. I've sat on very many planning committees going back years, just like John, and I want to take John back to 72 to 76 Wood Lane. I think it's 72, 76 Wood Lane, where, you know, this was again another HMO, but there was some issues regarding the HMO, but yet we actually allowed 9 flats, and John was quite rightly against that, right? That was your right. I think the local authority is looking at guidelines. These are all guidelines, and there'll always be areas which don't actually fit all the time along those guidelines. And you know, going back to the Wood Lane, right, issue, we've had that, and officers recommended when really I think it was very tenuous for approval, but yet that was approved. Here we have a lawful, illegal, using Councillor Todd's words, illegal extension that brings it out to 6 meters. We have an extension at number 23 that takes it out to 6 meters. In terms of the visibility, again, it's very subjective. You know, somebody like me who's quite short, you know, I'd be hard pushed to look over the site in terms of the 2 meter fencing on Rosemary Avenue. It really down to what I think the members think. Personally speaking, I you know, for me, I have no objection for this getting through. And that's no, you could quite rightly shout shame, but that's your opinion. I have a different opinion, and in regards to the overall opinion of it, I think that I regard it as an infill, even though the applicant didn't see it as an infill, right? And if any time that was supposed to be a brick building on the boundary line, then in real terms, you know, this wouldn't be an issue. The applicant did submit a set-in of 1.25 meters extension, and the officers turned that down because they wanted a greater in depth. So that's why it is here as it stands, rather than the side extension being set in by 1.2 meters, or I think whatever the officer was suggesting that they should come in by. I don't have any greater regards, and the officer wasn't able to tell us of some of the other properties on that road as to why, you know, that they've got sizable extensions and this is not able to achieve that, given that both sides are currently at 6 meters. And it's I mean, it's telling that the applicant or the person that represented the applicant stated that there was no objection from the person who would be most likely to be infringed upon. That's at number 19 in terms of light. There was no objection from that side. Maybe, I don't know, maybe he probably had an agreement or not an agreement as to the fact that he was 6 meters on an illegal extension. So I have concerns. I have concerns from the way that some of the report is written, and certainly in regards to the way some of these things have come through on the Wood Lane side, right? You quite rightly and others pointed out that, you know, the citation for a flats was the fact that there was enforcement on that site. So some of the report writing also needs to catch up with some of our policies. As regards to our policies, I think that this is really down to how we look at each individual case on its merit, and that's what I'm putting forward to the people present, the members, as to what you think is the right thing. Planning guidelines are just guidelines. They're not written in law. They're not written in stone. It is down to us to make a quasi-judicial decision as to what we feel, right, is a decision that we arrive at. So now I've said my piece. I think we need to now start moving into the vote. Is there anybody who's anybody else member before I go into that? Is there anybody else who've got a further comment? Good, bad, indifferent? Yes, Councillor Todd.
I think it's very, very unfair of you to misinterpret what the officer said about objectors and to raise a case at Wood Lane that the rest of the committee haven't got a clue about. It's not analogous and it distracts. I'll say no more.
Well, I want to correct you because Councillor Todd, just for the sake of the record, that was a committee meeting held in public where almost all the members were present. So this committee here is of 6 of those that were present at that particular time. So you know,
the relationship with this one is what? Nothing at all. Absolutely nothing at all. You heard what he said about. You said what the officer heard about objections. Whether there were objectors or not, he wouldn't have allowed it. You're being creative, Amrit.
No, I'm not being creative. There were objectors there, and there was quite a vocal lot.
Yes, yeah.
But yet we have to look at what we got in front of us and what we determine. So that's you know, it's down to each individual as to what they think. And it's completely down to, I've said my piece. I'm not particularly happy with what has happened here, but it is as it is. So now we want to move to the vote, and I would like to seek the decisions of the following councillors. I'll start again with Richard Foot. Councillor Richard Foot.
Councillor Mann, we need to be clear whether it's being moved or not. And I also need to be clear.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, and Chair, if I may speak, it's Jessica. We need first of all somebody to move approval or whatever, and we need some planning reasons for that. And I think one of the councillors did mention something, but we just need to be able to write it down for the record.
Sure. Okay. My apologies. I think I jumped the gun. Somebody needs to move, right, either officer recommendation or against the officer recommendation, and somebody needs to second, right, either one of those. So can I ask members for the proposal? Councillor Shiv Garwa?
Yes.
Yes, sorry,
I propose to be it to be approved.
Okay, and what is the reasoning for that approval in keeping with what Jessica, our legal side, has said?
See, the first thing is what I say is fine is the proposed extension. I feel is not going to be harmful to the neighbors and residents by virtue of size, scale, and design.
Okay.
And it is not excessive in depth and width, giving adjoining properties are already there.
Okay.
And furthermore, the proposed extension would be less visible than number 23 from Rosemary Avenue.
Okay.
These are the points. These are the major points which have been given by the officer, and I am contradicting them.
Okay.
And number 23 Manor Avenue and more is than 19 Manor Avenue.
So, sorry, Councillor Garwa, did all the members hear the last point that Councillor Garwa made? Because it cut off in halfway between what he was saying.
Chair, I didn't hear it, and I'm trying to write it down.
Okay, so Councillor Garwa, can you read out, right, or go out whatever you've got to say in regards to the last point that you made, because not all of us caught all of it.
He's reading from a script.
It's not a transcript. I've been writing it down.
Right. Members, decorum, please. Councillor Todd.
Okay.
Everybody makes notes. They're their own notes. We assume that's correct. So let's not get into mudslinging. Whatever Councillor Garwa wants to say, let him say until you have something to say different. Right, Councillor Garwa, please continue.
What it is, furthermore, the proposed extension would be less visible than the extension at 23 Manor Avenue, and more in keeping with the local area than existing structure at 19 Manor Avenue, thus making it a reasonable approach.
Okay, before I bring anybody else in, Jessica.
Yes, I got that.
Okay.
All I might say, Councillor Chair, is that I've dealt with a case somewhere else recently where it went to the Ombudsman. The Ombudsman does look very carefully at that the committee has proper planning reasons for overturning officer recommendation. And I don't know if we now need to go to Sam to see if there's any of that obviously we're just trying to help you here, but sure, any of that might not be planning reasons, and that we might have other words.
Okay.
For the reasons.
As a legal advisor, could you advise me whether I am giving any planning reason? Are these any of the planning reasons considered?
Yeah, it's more, Councillor, it's more a case of the planning officer to help you with that part. Okay. Because
right.
Councillor, please could you read your statement? Sorry, what you've wrote. Sorry, what you said before. To me, because it was a bit cut out.
Sam, can I stop Sam, and can I stop Councillor Garwal there? Yep. Let's hear from Jessica what she's got down.
Yeah. Okay.
And if that is all correct, because the last thing you want to do is to have something that's been taken down erroneously. So Jessica, what did you catch from all that? And if you could read that out for the rest of the members.
So the extension is not harmful to the neighbouring area by size and scale and design. It's not excessive in depth. It's less visible than number 23 Manor Avenue, and more in keeping with the local area than 19 Manor Avenue, and it's a reasonable approach.
Okay, Sam, you've heard what Jessica has said. If you can go through those points.
Yeah, the points are the reasons that Councillor Gurwal has given with regards to design and neighbour amenity are relevant material planning considerations. Okay,
so let me just sum up for Councillor Gurwal. What you have stated and what you've put as your reasons are now valid as planning reasons for moving what you want to move, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now what is it that you wish to move?
I wish to move for approval.
Okay, so we've got a proposal on the table for moving approval against the officer's recommendation. Is there a seconder? Seconder? Okay, Councillor Cleek Malik has seconded. So now,
Councillor Mann, sorry to interrupt. I need to have the moved and second with conditions. If you are recommending approval, the application will need to be subject to conditions.
Can I? Sorry, hold your horses. Sam, if you read out the conditions, then I'll put it to each of the members if they accept those conditions, and then everything will go from there, right? So if you can move forward with whatever you're proposing, Sam.
So the recommended conditions that I would advise you to include on any grant of planning permission for the development proposed are the following. Condition number 1, the development hereby permitted shall be begun before the expiration of 3 years from the date of this permission. The reason for this is to accord with the provisions of section 92(1) of the Town and Country Planning Act 1990. Condition 2, the proposed development shall be carried out in all respects in accordance with the proposals contained in the application and the plan submitted therewith, and approved by the local planning authority, or as shall have been otherwise agreed in writing by the local planning authority before the building is used. The reason for this is to ensure that the development is carried out in accordance with the planning permission. Condition 3, the materials used in the construction of the external surfaces of the extension hereby approved shall match those used in the existing building. The reason for this is in order to safeguard the visual amenity of the area and the building in particular, and to satisfy the requirements of policies CC1 and SC7 of the local plan. And condition 4, no additional windows or other glazed openings shall be formed in the flank walls of the extension hereby approved, and no additional doors inserted into the building without the prior written consent of the local planning authority. The reason for this is to protect neighbours' living conditions and to ensure that the accommodation provided is appropriate and respects the character and appearance of the area in accordance with policy SC7 of the local plan.
Okay, can I suggest that we add something else as well? And that goes down to what Richard had concerns about, which was that it should remain as a bedroom that's extended rather than being split further into different bedrooms.
Can I say, Chair, that I think that would be crossing over into licensing enforcement, because if they did that, they would be moving from a C4 HMO to generous, which would mean that they would have to apply for planning permission to do that.
Okay.
I think I'm right.
No. I think you're right because that comes under enforcement side, right, rather than the planning side. But is there anything in planning that can be attached so it remains what it remains, just a little bit bigger of what it is?
Well, that's the case of the application. It's an extension to an existing building in C4 use. So if you added an extra bedroom, it wouldn't be C4 use anyway, and that would be a breach of planning control. It's already covered by the provisions of the description, but if members would like a condition to that effect, we can draft something that would be acceptable in that regard.
Sorry, Councillor Mann, could I pop in?
Yes.
Sarah here. Sorry. So what we could do is put an informative on any approval that just reminds the applicant that should they wish to add additional bedrooms, they would need to come for planning permission, and that might be a way around it.
Agreed.
Okay. Yeah, that's agreed.
Yes.
Okay, members, you've heard some of the conditions that have been put up by Sam as an addition to what this planning that is proposed, right? So with those conditions, plus what Sarah is saying, that an informative addition to this planning application, so that we can look at it in its entirety. So we're dealing with what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through all of what Sam has said, plus what Sarah has said, as being added on as conditions to what has been proposed and moved. Is that all clear? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Right. So let me go and ask in terms of adding the conditions on for each individual councillor. Right. So you just need to say yes, add the conditions, right, or no, don't add the conditions. Right. So, Councillor Richard Foote, for adding the conditions.
I'm a bit of a loss, Chair, because the conditions should be automatic, but it doesn't, in my view, doesn't make the application legal. It's covering points that could fall on top of us in the future, in addition to that fact.
So is that a yes? I would take that as a yes, because you're saying that it should be as a standard.
The conditions need to be there, but I'm not saying I approve of the application or approve of them.
That's a separate vote. I'm just asking for the conditions.
No, I just wanted to be sure that we all understood each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is just for adding the condition. The vote is separate.
Yes. Should be
okay. Right, Councillor Shiv Garawal.
Yeah, I accept the conditions as stated.
Okay, that's yes. Councillor Khalik Malik.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it should be taken into account all the condition with fully in compliance.
Okay. Councillor Hina Mir.
Yes, I agree with the condition and they should be added on the proposal. Thank you.
Councillor John Todd. You're on mute, John. We can't hear you. You're on mute.
Yeah, I apologise. As a matter of principle or practice, Amrit, I think it's grossly unfair to ask the officer presenting to draft stuff against his own recommendation. In my view, Sarah or someone else should have done it independently from the officer. I don't agree with any conditions. I don't agree with its approval either. Thank you.
Well, okay, Councillor Todd, Sam is an officer of the council. This is a council report that he's presenting. So if he wanted to move the conditions, I've accepted that, right? And then we've heard his conditions, and then Sarah's come in and she's added her weight to it. It's really down to the individual members.
Okay.
Right. Whether you agree or disagree is a separate vote, and we'll move to that after I've completed this vote. Right. So for myself, I accept all of the conditions that have been stated. Right. So now I'm going to move for the proposal that's been put forward by Councillor Shiv Garawal, and that's been seconded by Cleek Malik. So we go for the vote. This is for the recommendation of approval against the officer's recommendation, right? Councillor Richard Foote.
Thank you, Chair. In my view, having two illegal extensions either side of this building that got away with it because the time should not make an illegal application legal, and therefore I vote against the proposal, which is to approve it. So I vote against the approval.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, Councillor Shiv Garawal.
Yeah, I would like to clarify this to Councillor Richard Foote.
No. Let's not go into ping pong. Let's not go into ping pong. Let's just go into the vote.
Okay, my apologies. Right, I vote for approval.
Okay, Councillor Cleek Malik.
Vote for approval.
Sorry, Chair, can I just interrupt a second? The members are meant to say that they confirm they've been present throughout the discussion when they vote. Really sorry.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
No, that's a good point. I've apologize. I've missed that out. Okay, so let me go back to Richard. Richard,
yeah, I confirm that I was present for the whole of the debate and heard every word. Well, that was it, wasn't it?
Yeah, and you're against the proposal.
Yeah, I'd already said that. So
yeah, that's fine. Okay, so Councillor Shiv Garawal, you'll have to redo exactly what. Yeah,
I confirm that I was present during the entire debate, and I participated in the debate, and I understood every word which was said by the officer as well as the members of my team, and I approve the application.
Okay, Councillor Cleek Malik.
I was present during the whole debate and I heard all the debate. After all, I'm going to support the proposal.
Sorry, when you say support the proposal as laid out by Councillor Shiv Garawal.
Right.
Correct. Okay, that's fine. Okay, Councillor Hina Mir, following in the same format.
Yeah, I vote in favour of the proposal, and I was present in the whole debate and I heard the debate.
Okay, thank you. Councillor John Todd.
Yeah, Councillor John Todd, I've been present throughout the meeting. I've heard all the evidence, heard all the debate, and I vote against.
Okay. Okay, myself, I've been present throughout the meeting. I've heard the debate and the evidence, and I support Councillor Shiv Garawal's application for approval. Right. Okay. So that's 2 against and 4 for approving the recommendation. So that recommendation is carried against the officer's recommendation. Okay, so let's move on. That's been quite a long debate on that one. Let's move on to item 5.
Chair, could I just advise? I got cut off at the tail end of that.
Yes.
So I didn't quite hear what the final result was. I've just managed to dial back in again. Just
Okay.
A second
Right.
ago.
I will just quickly run through. There were 2 against the proposal as laid out by Shiv Garawal and 4 for the approval of the recommendation against the officer's recommendation as laid out by Shiv Garewal. Is that right, Richard? Okay.
Yeah, fine. I just wanted to make sure that we were all noted that I'd been cut off and was and what I'd missed and what I hadn't missed.
Okay, right. Let's move on. Yeah. It's item 5, which is canal yard. There are no speakers on this, so I'm going to ask Sarah to do a quick summary of this, and then we'll move into the questions of Sarah about the application. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This is an application for the erection of a self-storage facility just off the Hayes Road at the northernmost part of the borough, just opposite the Costco and adjacent to the Grand Union Canal. The site is currently vacant, and the proposal would be laid out across the site, a storage facility in one main building that would have the capacity for approximately 6,890 square meters of storage space, and then separate units dotted around the outside. It's in a locally significant industrial estate, so it's supported by our planning policy, and the application has been assessed against the maximum space that can be provided here for that B8 storage use. The applicants might well just build the ground floor with these demountable floors that have been referred to in the application report. Just for that absolute clarity, we've assessed it on the maximum floor space that can be provided on this site. So just in relation to sustainability, they're at 71% better than the building regulations, which is significantly beyond where our policy position is at the moment at 35%. And in relation to design, it's functional design. You've got the yellow corrugated material at the top and grey bricks at the bottom, and that's reflected in the units that are dotted around the car park there, with the grey bricks and yellow white render facing into the courtyard. In relation to neighbours, there's very few neighbours that sit around the site. The closest being the more residential moorings here, the Willow Wren Wharf. They're over 30 metres away from the site. There'd be no harm to daylight and sunlight or overshadowing. Obviously, there would be a slight increase in noise given that the site is currently vacant, but given that it's got a historic industrial use, there's no objection on those grounds. And the use of the arrangement of the site with these smaller units closer to those does buffer that noise effect as well. There are 14 parking spaces and 8 cycle bays proposed. It would meet the London Plan standards, and it would be accessed by one access here, and there is currently 2, so the other one would be reinstated, improving that footway. This scheme also includes safeguarding for land for the cycleway that's going, the proposal that's along that road at the future. Just one more point on the ecology, because it's so close to the Grand Union Canal, they've submitted an ecology report. There's no notable protected species were found or are likely to be found on the site, is what that report concluded. So officers are recommending approval subject to the planning obligations for job brokerage, construction training, travel plan, and the land, and of course the carbon offset fund to make it up to that 100%, making it a net carbon neutral scheme, and obviously subject to the conditions as well. That concludes my presentation.
Okay, Sarah, you did do an in-depth one, didn't you? It wasn't summarized, yeah?
Yeah, that was my presentation.
Okay, that's fine. All right. Let me go through for questions first of Sarah's presentation. Councillor Richard Foote. Richard, any questions to Sarah regarding this particular site? Richard?
Sorry, I'm coming through. So I cut you off when I'm trying to unmute myself, so I don't know whether you actually called me through, Chair.
Right, okay. I can't see you, but I can hear you. So a question to Sarah regarding item 5.
Yeah, I've got a couple of points here. Looking at the employment policy, and I do question the description as industrial warehousing. This is a storage company where people stick their garage contents and baggage and God knows what. It is not an industrial warehousing operation, and therefore I'm not sure that this does fall under the local planning policy ED1, where it's saying it seeks to secure business opportunities stimulated by Heathrow Airport and central London. I don't think this building would do anything like stimulate business opportunities. It's not what they're designed for. I've got one of these buildings on the other side of the motorway to me. So, you know, I know what they're used for. Right, and I think this goes on to say there, but sorry, the thing that I would like to know is how many staff are going to be employed in this unit, because, and I'm saying this again where we come back to the point about Heathrow Airport, you know, we know that in the current situation, we are about to face a very severe reduction in employment in the borough of Hounslow. So sticking up a development like this with maybe about 6 people employed in it, I don't think it's a good use of that.
Okay. That's it, Richard? Finished?
Yeah, for the time being.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, no problem. Councillor Shiv Garawal.
Thank you, Chair. I totally am very happy with this proposal, because the way we are building our new houses, they are very compact and people do not have any storage space, so they need a place to store their goods.
Okay.
That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Khalik Malik.
Come on. Yes, please.
Sorry, Councillor Malik, your mic's on mute. Could you please unmute your microphone? Thank you.
Right. Sorry about that. I think the proposal is quite good one, but only thing what I will suggest is that there should be condition for local employment rather than that there should be some local recruitment and employed by local people. There should be some sort of condition in there.
Okay. Can I?
Councillor Mann, do you want me to come back on that and Councillor Foot's point?
Yes, go on. Let's
Okay.
do that. Yeah, before we forget as to what.
Okay. So just in relation to Councillor Foot's point about the use class and the location. So this is a locally significant industrial site, and our policy ED2 supports all of the B uses in those areas. So whilst I do appreciate that you're saying that it's not that B1 distribution that does support the network and wider, and it's a storage use that would more likely be used by smaller or personal use, the policy does support all of the B uses in these areas. Secondly, that there is 3 people that are proposed to be employed on this site, so not a great amount. But in relation to whether we can have local employment, given the impacts of Heathrow, we can't require that through the planning process, but we do have that contribution to constructions training and job brokerage that would be secured as part of this permission, that does go straight into our current plans for upskilling and job brokerage for those people who might have been affected by the job losses at Heathrow. Effectively, what we're considering here is a vacant site at the moment that doesn't have any use on it. It's a scheme that's in front of us. We have to make an assessment on the basis of that scheme that's been presented. It's a suitable use for our locally significant industrial site, and it does provide a minimal amount of jobs at 3. It does tick those policy boxes for us.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Let me carry on with the questioning. Councillor Hina Mir.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy with the report, and if I can, would like to move the approval.
Not just yet. Yeah, no, that's fine. I'll come back to you. Let's hold that on ice for a moment.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor John Todd.
No questions. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. I've got some questions, Sarah, only because being a Heston councillor, there is a lot of traffic issues because I get colleagues from Ealing who always try to rope us in over the traffic problem at Costco Lights intersection. Now, has this had a traffic survey done? And what are we doing? Because even though there are 3 people who are going to be employed there, but a lot of the business is about people who are coming and going. And if they are, as Councillor Garwal says, they need lots of storage space, then there should be lots and lots of people coming and going. That's a very busy road, especially the point which is adjacent to the Costco's intersection, which has got a camera that's giving tickets. Now, bearing in mind that as soon as you cross the lights, it tapers it from a 2-lane to a single lane, right? So in terms of a traffic flow, how is that going to be impacted, and what have we done to negate that impact?
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, so they did submit a transport assessment with their application, and I'll call on Kieran maybe to come in on this to confirm. But effectively, we're looking at quite a low trip generation use here, and it's got a big servicing yards, as you can see from the plan that's on the scheme on the file at the moment, which would be able to contain those uses, given what the predicted flows are. But Kieran, do you want to come in and say something on that?
Sure, yeah, Kieran Coughlin, Transport Officer. Yeah, just by the very nature of the use, people don't tend to store stuff that they need regularly. So it's almost like they go to the site, leave it there and for a long time and don't come back again. So there are quite low numbers of traffic associated with a relatively large building, and even fewer trips than what was previously there as well. So it would be a betterment in that terms, to be fewer trips on the network. In relation to the chair's other point about the 2 lanes filtering into 1, I believe that my colleagues are advancing a scheme to widen that there so that it is 2 lanes on the approach to the further along, so that that may alleviate that, but it's not something that we'd require as part of this, just because there would be a reduction in the number of movements associated with this proposal.
Okay, can I just come in for the last point, only because to further my knowledge, the 2-lane going up to the lights by the petrol pump, because it gets rid of the taper. When you say it's progressing, how far is progressed? Because I remember going back from 2014 to 2018, I did ask Mark Frost for CPOing that particular strip, and he wasn't able to come forward. And towards 2017, 2018, we were still no further forward. So has that been sorted? I mean, I know this is irrelevant to the planning, but just because it actually impacts a lot of Heston councillors, certainly Councillor Garwal, the Heston West councillors, because we are all getting roped in by the colleagues next door in Ealing regarding this.
Yeah, as I understand it, I think all the land acquisitions and things like that have been done. So it is at advanced stages. I'm not sure has the current situation affected the timings somewhat, but it is almost outside the scope of this application, like you mentioned.
That's fine. That's fine. It's well progressed. That's what it. Okay, right. Thank you very much. Yeah, Kieran.
Chair, could I ask an additional question?
Sorry, who's that? Is that Richard?
Oops, yeah.
Okay, Richard. Yeah, sorry. Yes,
yeah.
Come on.
Can I just get? I'm a bit confused, mainly because some of these drawings on here, the writing's so small, even with my magnifying glass, I can't read it. But on the plan on page 55, there's a little drawing at the bottom there where we have self-storage at ground floor. Then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 floors above, and in the text above, it references to demountable mezzanine floors. I'm not quite sure what that means. Does that mean we've got ISO containers lifted up there and stuffed in, or what?
Okay, somebody, Sarah?
Yep. So yeah, quite an odd. I don't wonder if I've just got the slide of it here so you can see it a bit clearly. So
yeah, I can read that. Yeah.
When the proposal is to build a single floor with a bit, you know, that's what they know that they've got the capacity for, but they're seeking approval for the additional space with all of these floors, mezzanine floors. So they're demountable to adapt and be flexible for what storage needs the business might have going forward. So what we've done is assessed it in terms of the transport impacts and the movements on the maximum floor space that it could possibly have, but it gives them the flexibility to work that storage as they need to with the business need. It's all internal though, so you wouldn't notice it from outside. The outside.
Yeah, it was just that if you're using it, because when they talk about, where did I see it? Somewhere here, demountable, and words like that, it sort of summons up that what we might be getting in there are ISO containers, which of course are transportable and are used for storage. But that would require a whole lot of other issues, like, you know, lifting a 20-foot steel container. You don't do that on the back of your bike. It's, you know, you need some pretty special equipment to start launching it up for stories. So that's why I'm just wondering what it is. It doesn't really tell us much there. I mean, other than if they just fill it in, I presume that's the other option that they have. They just fill in the space with, you know, whatever they use to do.
Okay. Sarah, do you want to answer it, or we move on?
I mean, I think so. I just think all I can say is that you know, it's the flexible storage. If they needed some very big equipment attached to the external face of the building, they would need to come back to us for planning permission. What is in front of us is that internal arrangement that's flexible, and the external appearances as we've got in the plans.
Yeah, that was basically my reason for asking it, because, you know, if there were such large structural things to happen, then, you know, that, and it was creeping in on a planning application now, but something different in the future. If we're saying, then I've got no problem if they are going to make that kind of level of change, that it's coming back for planning application.
Okay, Richard, are we done?
Yep.
Okay, Richard, as regards your eyesight, I heard that carrot juice is very good. Never seen a rabbit wearing glasses. Try carrot juice.
Got any carrots? The rabbit eats them all.
Okay. All right. Look, that's the questioning side that's done. What we need to do is to go for comment or debate. I'm going to do that again, running down one by one, starting again with Richard Foote. Councillor Foote, any comments, any debate?
Well, I'll tell you what, if you ever get another one of these buildings, I'll search through my paints and I'll get you the real colour yellow that they're in, because it is alarming. It isn't nice and clear like this. It is very, very bright. As I say, I've got one across the road from me. So, but other than that, yeah, I mean, it's in a pretty remote space of the borough. There is not an awful lot of people that are going to be upset by the colour code. So I vote in favour.
Okay, well, we'll hold off for the vote, but we're just going through it. We're just going for the debate and comment, yeah? So, Councillor Shiv Garawal.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. No comments, and I'm happy with the proposal.
Okay. Let's move on to Councillor Cleek Malik.
No, Chair. Thank you very much. There's nothing to comment on.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hina Mir.
Thank you very much, Chair. No comments from my end. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor John Todd.
No comment, thank you, Chair.
Okay. Myself, no comment. So let's move on to the proposal. Now, this is where I'm asking somebody to propose. Councillor John Todd.
I propose we agree this one.
I'll second it.
Okay, so now we've got to do it in the format that we've done before, right? Which is that, yes, I've been present, and yes, I've heard the debate, and Edison. Yep. Okay, so Councillor Richard Foote, how do you cast your vote?
Yes, I have been present for the whole debate, and I vote in favour of the provision of 3 jobs against the 30,000 that we're losing.
Okay, Councillor Shiv Garawal.
Thank you, Chair. I've been present throughout the presentation and I'm quite happy with it, and I vote in favour of it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Khalik Malik.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy. I heard all the debate. I was present all the time, and with subject to the condition and with the agreement of Section 106, I'm happy to support the officer's recommendation.
Okay, Councillor Hina Mir.
I'll vote in favour of the officer's recommendation, and I've been present throughout the debate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor John Todd.
Yeah, vote in favour, present throughout, heard all the evidence and heard the debate. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Todd. Okay, I've been present throughout the debate. I've heard the debate, heard the evidence, and I vote in favour of the officer's recommendation. So that is carried unanimously, right? And that means that we now move on to the last part, which are the items outstanding. So item 7 is the addendum report, right? Does anybody want to speak on that? Any officer? Sarah, Matthew?
I don't think we've anything further to add beyond that, which we've highlighted in the reports.
Okay, that's fine. So let's move on to item 8, which is the monthly update. Nothing to report. I've not been made aware of anything. Any other business Mr. Chair considers urgent? I've not been made aware of anything. So date of next meeting is the 6th of August 2020. And this is actually expected to be another virtual meeting. So please keep checking for details on our website. Can I also thank all the members and planning officers? Today's been a very long virtual meeting, and we've agreed on some points, we've disagreed on other points, but we need to come out of all this and move forward. And I'd like to thank the ICT officers who've done brilliantly to make sure that everything runs tickety-boo, and also from our colleagues in Democratic Services, Legal Services who supported this meeting. So I'd like to thank members of the public who persevered all throughout and watched this meeting in its ups and downs, and also our technical problems that we've had, and persevered through those. So finally, I close this meeting. I thank everybody, and I thank the ICT producers for getting us to this stage. Thank you very much, and it's good night from me. Thank you.